When the CEO who destroyed your life shows up freezing at your door, begging for help, do you save her or let the storm finish what you started? Tonight, I'm going to tell you a story about pride, survival, and the moment when everything you thought made you strong becomes the very thing that breaks you. This is the story of Vivian Park and Noah Hale, two people who should have stayed enemies forever. But sometimes a snowstorm has other plans. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The windshield wipers were losing. Vivian Park pressed harder on the brake pedal, her Mercedes sedan fishtailing across black ice she couldn't see beneath the wall of white. The GPS had died 20 minutes ago. Her phone showed one bar, then none, then one again, mocking her with its uselessness. The mountains of Vermont had swallowed her whole, and for the first time in 15 years, Vivian Park, CEO of Quantum Solutions, named to Forbes 30 under 30 at 26, worth $42 million on paper, had absolutely no control. "Come on," she hissed through clenched teeth, fighting the steering wheel as the car slid toward the edge of the road. Beyond the guardrail was nothing but darkness and the sound of wind that screamed like something alive and hungry. The back end of the Mercedes broke loose. Vivian's stomach dropped as the world spun in slow motion. Trees, road, sky. Trees again. The impact wasn't violent, just a sickening crunch as the passenger side kissed a snow-covered boulder, and then everything stopped. Silence. Just her ragged breathing and the tick-tick-tick of the engine cooling. "Okay," Vivian said to herself, her voice shaking. "Okay, you're fine. You're fine." She wasn't fine. When she tried to open the driver's door, it groaned but wouldn't budge, wedged against the rock. The passenger side was her only option. Vivian climbed over the center console in her tailored Armani suit, her pencil skirt riding up her thighs as she squeezed through the gap. Snow immediately assaulted her face, so thick she could barely see her own hands. The temperature hit her like a physical blow. She'd been in the heated car for 2 hours, and now reality crashed down. She was wearing a silk blouse, a wool blazer, heels that cost more than most people's rent, and nothing remotely appropriate for a blizzard. "Stupid," she muttered, wrapping her arms around herself. "Stupid, stupid, stupid!" The rental car company had warned her. The hotel concierge had warned her. Even her assistant Marcus had sent 3 texts telling her to postpone the drive until morning. But Vivian Park didn't postpone. Vivian Park didn't adjust her schedule for weather or traffic or anyone's convenience. She had a meeting in Burlington at 8 a.m. and she would be there. Except now she was standing in a snowstorm with no phone signal, no visible road, and no idea which direction led to civilization. She tried her phone again. Nothing. Not even emergency calls were going through. "Think," she commanded herself, her teeth already chattering. "Strategic thinking, that's what you do." Stay with the car. That was the rule, wasn't it? Wait for help. But how long until someone found her? The road had been empty for the last hour, and sitting in a car with no heat and wet clothes, no, she needed shelter. Vivian looked around, squinting through the snow. There, about 100 yards up the road, barely visible through the white chaos, a dim light flickered between the trees. A house or a cabin, something. Relief flooded through her so intensely she almost cried. "Okay, you can do this, it's just a walk." It was not just a walk. Within 30 seconds, snow had soaked through her blazer. Within a minute, her blouse was plastered to her skin. Her heels kept punching through the snow crust, twisting her ankles with every step. Ice formed in her hair. Her fingers went numb, then started to ache with a deep bone-grinding pain that made her whimper. "Please," she whispered to no one. "Please, please, please." The light grew closer. Vivian stumbled forward, no longer caring about dignity or posture or the fact that she probably looked like a drowned rat. All that mattered was that light, that promise of warmth, that thin thread of hope pulling her forward through the killing cold. 50 yards. 40. 30. She could see it now. A small log cabin with a covered porch and a single window glowing amber. Smoke rose from the chimney. Someone was home. Thank God. Thank God. Vivian half ran, half crawled the last 20 feet, her legs barely working anymore. She grabbed the porch railing and pulled herself up the 3 wooden steps, her entire body shaking so violently she could barely stand. The door. Just knock on the door. She raised her fist and pounded once, twice, 3 times, harder than she meant to because her hands weren't working right anymore. Help! Her voice came out as a croak. Please, I need help. Nothing. No sound from inside. Panic spiked through her chest. What if they didn't answer? What if they couldn't hear her over the storm? She pounded again, using both fists this time. Please! My car! I crashed! I need… The door swung open. Warm air rushed out, along with the smell of wood smoke and something cooking. Soup, maybe, or stew. For a split second, all Vivian registered was warmth and light and safety. Then she looked up, and the world stopped. The man standing in the doorway was tall, over 6 feet, with broad shoulders under a worn flannel shirt and dark hair that fell across his forehead. He had a 3-day beard, tired eyes, and the kind of weathered face that came from real work, not gym memberships and executive stress. Vivian knew that face. She had seen it exactly once before, 3 months ago, across a desk in her corner office on the 42nd floor. Noah Hale, the employee she'd fired. No, not just any employee. The single father whose wife had died 7 months before that. The man who'd been late 14 times in 6 weeks. The man who'd broken down in her office and begged, actually begged, for one more chance. And she'd said no. She'd looked him in the eye and told him that quantum solutions couldn't make exceptions for personal circumstances. That reliability was non-negotiable, that she was sure he understood. She'd watched him stand up, shoulders slumped, and walk out of her office carrying a box with a framed photo of a little girl on top. And now, here he was, staring at her, his expression shifting from confusion to recognition to something that made Vivian's blood run even colder than the storm. You, Noah said. His voice was flat, empty, worse than anger. You've got to be kidding me. Vivian tried to speak. Her mouth wouldn't work. Her whole body was shaking so hard she had to grab the doorframe to stay upright. Please, she finally managed. My car, I need… Help? Noah finished. He didn't move from the doorway. You need help. Yes. Please. I'm sorry to intrude, but I didn't have anywhere else. You're sorry to intrude. Noah laughed, but it wasn't a sound with any humor in it. That's rich. That's really rich. Vivian's vision was starting to blur at the edges. She couldn't feel her feet anymore. Please. I know you have every reason to hate me, but I'm freezing and I just need… What you need, Noah interrupted, is to get inside before you die of hypothermia. He stepped back from the doorway. Vivian stumbled forward, her legs giving out the moment she crossed the threshold. She hit the floor hard, her hands barely catching her. The warmth of the cabin enveloped her like a blanket, so intense it hurt. Noah closed the door behind her, the sound of the storm immediately muffled, replaced by the crackle of a fire and the quiet tick of a clock somewhere in the room. Don't move, Noah said. I need to get towels. He disappeared down a short hallway, leaving Vivian collapsed on the hardwood floor of his entryway. She tried to push herself up, but her arms wouldn't cooperate. Everything hurt. Her chest felt tight. She couldn't stop shaking. The cabin was small but clean, one main room serving as living room and kitchen combined. A wood stove in the corner, burning hot. Mismatched furniture that looked secondhand but comfortable. Children's drawings stuck to the refrigerator with magnets. A pair of small pink boots by the door. A child lived here. His daughter. The little girl from the photo. Vivian's chest constricted even tighter, but not from the cold this time. Noah returned with an armful of towels and what looked like sweatpants and a flannel shirt. He dropped them on the floor next to her, then crouched down, maintaining distance. Listen to me carefully, he said. His voice was calm now, professional. Like he was explaining something to someone who might not understand. You're soaking wet and your core temperature is dropping. You need to get out of those clothes right now or you're going to go into shock. Do you understand? Vivian nodded, but she couldn't make herself move. I'm going to turn around, Noah continued. There's a bathroom right there. He pointed to a door 6 feet away. Change in there. Put on the dry clothes. Don't try to warm up too fast. Just dry off and get dressed. Can you do that? Yes. Are you sure? Because if you can't, I'm going to have to help you, and I really don't want to do that. The bluntness of it shocked Vivian into motion. She managed to get to her hands and knees, then to her feet, swaying. I can do it, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Good. Noah turned his back and walked to the kitchen, making a show of focusing on something on the counter. Vivian grabbed the clothes and towels and stumbled into the bathroom. The moment she closed the door, she sagged against it, her legs finally giving out completely. She slid down to sit on the cold tile floor, her whole body convulsing with shivers. Move. She had to move. With shaking hands, Vivian peeled off her blazer, the wet wool stuck to her silk blouse. Her fingers were so numb she couldn't work the buttons. She had to use her teeth to pull them open, one by one. When she finally managed to strip everything off, she caught sight of herself in the mirror above the sink and barely recognized the reflection. Her perfectly styled hair was a wet mess. Her makeup had run in black streaks down her cheeks. Her lips were almost blue. She looked destroyed. Vivian grabbed one of the towels and dried herself roughly, trying to generate heat through friction. It helped. A little. Enough that she could pull on the clothes Noah had given her, sweatpants that were too long and had to be rolled at the waist, and a flannel shirt that smelled like laundry detergent and wood smoke. She caught her reflection again. In her tailored suits and designer heels, Vivian Park commanded boardrooms. She made venture capitalists nervous. She'd once made a senior partner at Goldman Sachs stammer during a negotiation. In borrowed sweatpants and an oversized flannel shirt, she looked small, ordinary, human. When she emerged from the bathroom, Noah was standing by the wood stove, feeding it another log. He glanced at her, his expression unreadable. Better? He asked. Yes, thank you. Sit. He gestured to a chair he'd pulled close to the stove. Not too close. You need to warm up gradually. Vivian sat. The heat from the stove felt incredible, almost painful against her frozen skin. She held her hands out toward it, watching her fingers slowly regain color. Noah stood on the other side of the room, arms crossed, just watching her. The silence stretched. Vivian knew she should say something, thank him properly, apologize, explain, but every sentence she constructed in her head sounded inadequate. I called 911, Noah finally said. Told them about your car. They said road crews won't be able to get through until the storm passes. Probably not until morning. Oh. Vivian's voice came out small. So I'm stuck here. Yeah, you're stuck here. Noah's tone was utterly neutral. With me, the guy whose life you destroyed. Vivian flinched. Noah, don't. He held up a hand. I'm going to let you stay because I'm not going to let someone freeze to death on my porch, even you. But don't try to apologize or explain or make it better. Just don't. Okay, Vivian whispered. Noah stared at her for another long moment, then turned toward the kitchen. I made soup. You need to eat something warm. Sit there and don't move. He walked away, leaving Vivian alone by the stove, wearing his clothes, in his home, at his mercy. 3 months ago, she'd held all the power. Now she couldn't even feel her own feet. The cabin felt very small, very quiet. Vivian could hear Noah moving around in the kitchen, the clink of a bowl, the sound of liquid being poured. Through the window, the storm raged, battering the glass with snow and ice. She'd driven into these mountains to make a meeting, to close a deal, to do what Vivian Park always did, win. Instead, she'd crashed into the one place in the world she should never have been, at the mercy of the one person who had every right to close the door in her face. Noah returned with a bowl of soup and a spoon. He set it on the small table next to her chair. Eat, he said. Thank you. He didn't acknowledge it. He just walked back to the kitchen and started cleaning up, his movements precise and controlled. Vivian picked up the spoon with trembling hands. The soup was chicken noodle, homemade, with chunks of vegetables and thick egg noodles. It was the best thing she'd ever tasted. She ate slowly, feeling warmth spread through her chest and stomach. The shaking gradually subsided. Her fingers started working properly again. The fog in her head began to clear, which meant she could fully process the situation she was in. Trapped overnight, in a cabin, with Noah Hale. The man she'd fired without hesitation. The man who'd stood in her office with red-rimmed eyes. and asked if there was any way, he could keep his job because he didn't know how he was going to support his daughter otherwise. And she'd said no, because the numbers didn't work, because exceptions created precedent, because Vivian Park had built her company on the principle that excellence was non-negotiable. She'd felt good about that decision, righteous even. She was running a business, not a charity. Now, sitting in his cabin, wearing his clothes, eating his food, that righteousness felt like acid in her throat. "How old is your daughter?" The question was out before Vivian could stop it. Noah went still at the sink. For a moment, she thought he wasn't going to answer. 5, he finally said, his back still to her. "She lives here with you? Where else would she live?" "I just meant—" Vivian stopped. What did she mean? "Is she here now?" "She's asleep." Noah turned around, and his expression made Vivian wish she'd kept her mouth shut. "In her bedroom, where she should be at 9:30 at night, and she's going to stay asleep, so keep your voice down." "Of course, I'm sorry." "Stop saying you're sorry." Noah's voice was harder now. "You're not sorry. You're uncomfortable. There's a difference." Vivian set down her spoon, her appetite suddenly gone. "That's not fair." "Fair?" Noah laughed, that same humorless sound from before. "You want to talk about fair? Okay, let's talk about fair." He walked toward her, and Vivian's instinct was to shrink back in the chair, but she forced herself to stay still. Noah stopped a few feet away, his hands shoved in his pockets. "You fired me 3 months after my wife died. I was late to work because I had a 5-year-old who wouldn't stop crying, who woke up every morning asking where her mommy was, who wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep, wouldn't talk to anyone but me." Vivian's throat tightened. "Noah, I told you that," he continued, his voice low and controlled. "I sat in your office and I explained everything. I showed you the grief counseling appointments. I brought documentation from the school about Sadie's behavioral issues. I offered to make up every single hour I'd missed. And you know what you said?" Vivian did know. She remembered every word. "You said that Quantum Solutions valued reliability above all else," Noah recited. "That you understood my situation was difficult, but that you had a responsibility to the company. That you couldn't make exceptions, no matter how sympathetic the circumstances." "I was trying to be professional," Vivian said weakly. "You were trying to be a robot." Noah shook his head. "No, that's not even fair to robots. You were trying to be perfect. So perfect that messy things like grief and children and real human problems couldn't touch you." "That's not— And the worst part?" Noah's voice cracked, just slightly. "The worst part is that I didn't even blame you. Not at first. I thought, she's right. I'm not reliable anymore. I can't do the job. I'm failing." Vivian stood up, her legs still wobbly. "Noah, I didn't mean to make you feel—" "Sit down." It wasn't a request. Vivian sat. Noah ran a hand through his hair, turning away from her. "I couldn't find another job. Nobody wants to hire a software engineer who got fired for attendance issues. The unemployment barely covered rent. I burned through Emma's life insurance just keeping us fed. I had to pull Sadie out of her school, which was the one place where she still felt close to her mom." Each sentence hit Vivian like a physical blow. She'd known he was a single father. She'd known his wife had died. But she hadn't known this, hadn't let herself think about what came after. "We lost our apartment in Boston," Noah continued. "Moved in with my sister for a while, but that fell apart. She meant well, but she had her own kids and her own problems. So I took what was left of our money and I bought this cabin. It's tiny, it's isolated, it's not what I wanted for Sadie. But it's ours and it's paid for and nobody can take it away." He turned back to face her. "So yeah, Ms. Park, let's talk about fair." Vivian couldn't speak. There was nothing to say that wouldn't sound like an excuse. The clock ticked. The fire crackled. Outside, the storm hammered against the walls. "I'm going to check on Sadie," Noah said finally. "You stay here. Finish your soup. And then we're both going to go to sleep and pretend this never happened." He walked down the hallway and disappeared into one of the rooms, closing the door softly behind him. Vivian sat alone by the fire, the bowl of soup cooling in her lap, and felt something she hadn't felt in 15 years. Shame. Not embarrassment, not regret. Pure, unfiltered shame. She'd built her entire identity on being strong, on never letting emotions cloud her judgment, on making the hard calls that other people were too weak to make. But sitting here, in the wreckage of the life she'd helped destroy, Vivian realized that she'd confused strength with cruelty, excellence with inhumanity, success with the absence of failure. She'd thought firing Noah was the right decision. She'd been so certain, and she'd been so catastrophically wrong. Vivian set the soup bowl on the table with shaking hands, not from the cold this time, from something much deeper. She heard a door open down the hall, saw footsteps, but they weren't Noah's heavy tread. Vivian looked up just as a small figure appeared in the hallway entrance, a little girl, 5 years old, just like Noah had said, wearing pink pajamas with unicorns on them, dark hair in a messy braid, big brown eyes that blinked sleepily at Vivian. "Daddy?" the girl said, her voice small and confused. "Who's that?" Vivian froze. Every instinct told her to call for Noah, to not engage, to let him handle this. But the little girl was staring at her with such open curiosity, such complete lack of judgment, that Vivian found herself speaking. "Hi," she said softly. "I'm a friend of your dad's. My car broke down in the storm, so I'm staying here tonight. Is that okay?" The little girl tilted her head, considering. "You're wearing Daddy's clothes." "Yes, my clothes got wet." "Oh." The girl patted closer, her bare feet making no sound on the hardwood. "I'm Sadie." "It's nice to meet you, Sadie. I'm Vivian." "That's a pretty name." Sadie climbed up into the chair across from Vivian, sitting cross-legged. "Why is your hair all messy?" Vivian almost smiled. "I was out in the snow." "Daddy says the snow is bad tonight. He said it's a whiteout." "It is. It's very bad." Sadie leaned forward, studying Vivian's face with the intense focus only children possess. "Your eyes are red. Are you sad?" The question landed like a knife between Vivian's ribs. Yes," Vivian admitted. "I think I am." "Why?" "How did you explain existential shame to a 5-year-old?" "I did something that hurt someone," Vivian said carefully, "and now I feel bad about it." Sadie nodded sagely, like this made perfect sense. "Did you say sorry?" "I tried, but I don't think sorry is enough. Daddy says sorry is always a good start." Sadie swung her legs, her heels bumping against the chair. "But then you have to do better next time. That's the important part." Out of the mouths of babes, Vivian thought. "Your daddy is very smart," she said. "I know." Sadie grinned, showing a gap where her front tooth used to be. "He's the smartest daddy in the whole world." Footsteps in the hallway made them both look up. Noah appeared, his expression shifting from concern to surprise when he saw Sadie. "Hey, Bug," he said gently. "What are you doing up?" "I heard talking," Sadie explained. "I wanted to meet the lady." Noah's eyes flicked to Vivian, then back to his daughter. "Did you introduce yourself?" "Uh-huh. Her name is Vivian and her car broke, and she's sad because she hurt someone." Noah's expression flickered. Surprise. Then something that might have been pain. "Is that right?" "She said sorry, but it wasn't enough," Sadie continued cheerfully. "I told her what you always say. Sorry is a good start, but you have to do better next time." Noah was very still. He looked at Vivian, really looked at her for the first time since she'd arrived. Vivian looked back, not flinching away, letting him see whatever he needed to see. "Sadie," Noah said finally, his voice soft. "It's late. You need to go back to bed." "But, now, Bug, school tomorrow." Sadie sighed dramatically, but slid off the chair. "Okay. Good night, Vivian." "Good night, Sadie," Vivian managed. The little girl padded over to her father, who scooped her up easily. She wrapped her arms around his neck, and Noah carried her back down the hallway, whispering something Vivian couldn't hear. Vivian sat very still, staring at the fire, feeling something crack open in her chest that she'd kept locked for years. That little girl, who'd lost her mother, who'd been pulled out of her school, out of her home, out of everything familiar, who lived in this isolated cabin in the mountains because her father couldn't find work after Vivian destroyed his reputation. And she was happy, bright, curious, loved, because Noah had fought for her, had sacrificed everything to keep her safe, had made a home out of nothing, while Vivian had sat in her corner office and called it professional. Noah returned a few minutes later. He didn't sit down. He stood in the middle of the room, arms crossed, looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. "I'm sorry," Vivian said. Not because Sadie had told her to, but because she meant it. "I'm so sorry, Noah, for everything." "I know," Noah said quietly. "I don't expect you to forgive me." "Good." He walked to the linen closet and pulled out a pillow and blankets. "Because I'm not there yet. Maybe not ever." He tossed the bedding onto the couch. "You can sleep there. Bathroom's where you changed. Don't go down the hallway. That's our private space. Storm should clear by morning, and then you can leave." "Okay." Noah started to walk away, then stopped. "Vivian." "Yes?" "You told Sadie you hurt someone." His back was still to her. "Did you mean me?" Vivian's throat tightened. "Yes." "Do you actually understand what you did? Or are you just sorry because it's awkward to be here?" The question deserved honesty. "I understand now," Vivian said. "I didn't before. I thought I was being fair, objective, but I was just being cruel. I made a decision that destroyed your life, and I didn't let myself think about what happened after you left my office. I convinced myself that was professional, but it was just cowardice." Noah turned around slowly. "Yeah," he said. "It was." He studied her face for a long moment. "The thing is, Ms. Park, I don't think you're a bad person. I think you're a person who spent so long trying to be perfect that you forgot how to be human." Vivian wanted to argue, wanted to defend herself, but she couldn't because he was right. "Get some sleep," Noah said. "We'll talk more in the morning. Maybe." He walked away, disappearing into his bedroom and closing the door with a soft click. Vivian stood alone in the main room, the fire burning low, the storm still raging outside. She made up the couch with the blankets Noah had given her. Lay down, stared at the ceiling. Through the walls she could hear soft sounds. Noah's voice reading a story, Sadie's sleepy responses. The kind of quiet, intimate moment that made up a life she'd almost taken away. Vivian closed her eyes, but sleep didn't come. Every time she started to drift, she saw Sadie's face, heard her innocent question, "Why are you sad?" "Because I forgot what it cost," Vivian thought. "I forgot that every number on a spreadsheet is a person. Every termination is a family. Every business decision is someone's life. I forgot. And now I can't unknow it." The fire popped and hissed. The clock ticked. Outside, the storm that had brought her here continued to rage, burying the world in white. And somewhere in this tiny cabin, in rooms Vivian wasn't allowed to enter, a little girl slept peacefully because her father had refused to let the world break them, no matter how hard people like Vivian had tried. Vivian woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of a child's laughter. For a moment, she forgot where she was. The ceiling was wrong. The light was wrong. Everything felt displaced, like waking up in a dream that hadn't quite ended. Then memory crashed back. The storm, the crash. Noah's face when he opened the door. She sat up slowly, her body aching from sleeping on the couch. Morning light filtered through the windows, pale and clean. The storm had passed. Outside, everything was white and still. In the kitchen area, Noah stood at the stove flipping pancakes while Sadie sat at the small table, swinging her legs and coloring in a book. They were talking in low voices, easy and comfortable, the kind of morning routine that came from repetition and love. Vivian watched them for a moment, feeling like an intruder, which she was. Sadie looked up first. "Daddy, the lady's awake." Noah glanced over his shoulder, his expression neutral. "Morning." "Good morning," Vivian said, her voice rough with sleep. She stood, folding the blankets carefully. "I should probably—" "Sit," Noah interrupted. "You need to eat before you go anywhere." It wasn't an invitation. It was a statement of fact, delivered in the same tone he might use to tell someone their tire was flat. Vivian hesitated, then moved to the table. Sadie beamed at her. "We're having pancakes," the little girl announced. "Daddy makes the best pancakes. He puts chocolate chips in them." "That sounds wonderful," Vivian said, trying to match Sadie's enthusiasm. Noah brought over 2 plates, one for Sadie, one for Vivian. The pancakes were golden brown, studded with melting chocolate chips. He set them down without ceremony, then returned to the stove to make his own. "Thank you," Vivian said. He didn't respond. Sadie dug into her pancakes with the single-minded focus of a hungry child. Vivian ate more slowly, acutely aware of the silence between bites. The pancakes were good, better than good, made from scratch, not from a box. "Did you sleep okay?" Sadie asked suddenly, syrup on her chin. "I did, thank you. The couch is lumpy. Daddy says we need a new one, but they're expensive." "Sadie," Noah said quietly from the stove, a gentle warning. "What? They are expensive. You said so." Noah brought his own plate to the table and sat down across from Vivian. He didn't meet her eyes. "Eat your breakfast, bug." They ate in silence for a while. Vivian could feel the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on the small kitchen. She wanted to speak, to apologize again, to say something that might make this less awful. But Sadie was there, cheerful and oblivious, and Vivian didn't want to ruin the child's morning. "I called the tow company," Noah said eventually, still not looking at Vivian. "They'll be able to get to your car around noon. Road crews cleared the main highway about an hour ago." "Oh, that's good. There's a mechanic in town. Probably going to need a new bumper, maybe some body work. Depends on the damage." Vivian nodded, though the idea of dealing with mechanics and insurance and repairs felt utterly foreign right now. Those were problems that belonged to the person she'd been yesterday, the CEO who scheduled every minute and controlled every outcome. That person felt very far away. "Can I show Vivian my room?" Sadie asked, bouncing in her seat. "No," Noah said firmly. "Finish your breakfast." "But, Sadie..." The little girl subsided, pouting slightly, but she couldn't stay upset for long. Within seconds she was chattering about school, about her friend Emma, who had a new puppy, about how they were learning to write in cursive even though it was hard. Vivian listened, fascinated despite herself. She'd never spent much time around children. They existed in her world as abstractions, dependents that employees had, complications that required accommodation. She'd never really thought about them as people. But Sadie was undeniably a person. Bright and funny and so heartbreakingly resilient it made Vivian's chest hurt. "All done," Sadie announced, pushing her plate away. "Can I go watch cartoons?" Noah checked his watch. 20 minutes. Then you need to brush your teeth and get dressed for school." "Okay." Sadie scrambled down from her chair and ran to the couch, where she grabbed a remote and turned on a small TV in the corner. Vivian and Noah were alone at the table. The silence stretched taut between them. Vivian gripped her coffee cup, the ceramic warm against her palms. Noah stared at his plate, methodically cutting his pancakes into precise squares. "I called in sick to the lumberyard," he said finally. "Told them I had a family emergency. I can drive you into town when the tow truck gets here." "You don't have to do that. I can call a cab." "There are no cabs out here, Ms. Park. This isn't Boston." Noah looked up and his eyes were tired. "I'm driving you because it's the right thing to do. Not because I want to." The honesty of it stung, but Vivian couldn't argue. "I understand." "Do you?" Vivian met his gaze. "I'm trying to." Noah made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You know what the worst part is? I don't even hate you. I want to. It would be easier if I could just hate you and be done with it." "Why can't you?" "Because you didn't fire me because you're evil. You fired me because you genuinely believed you were doing the right thing. You thought you were being fair and consistent and professional." He shook his head. "And that's so much worse, because it means you're not a villain. You're just broken in a way you didn't even know." Vivian set down her coffee cup carefully. "You're right. I know I'm right. I mean, about being broken." Vivian's voice wavered slightly, but she pushed through. "I've spent 15 years building a company, building a reputation, being the person who makes the hard calls. And I told myself that was strength, that caring too much made you weak, that the best leaders were the ones who could detach. And now? Now I think I was just scared." The admission felt like pulling shrapnel from a wound. "Scared of being like my mother. She ran a small business that failed because she couldn't say no to people. Couldn't fire employees who weren't performing, couldn't make tough decisions. We lost everything. I swore I'd never be that vulnerable. Noah was quiet for a long moment. So you became the opposite. Yes. Did it work? Vivian thought about her corner office, her $42 million valuation, her reputation as one of the most ruthless young CEOs in tech. I thought it did, she said, right up until I crashed my car in a snowstorm and ended up here. From the living room, cartoon music played softly. Sadie laughed at something on the screen. What happened to your mother's business? Noah asked. She had to declare bankruptcy. Lost the building. We lived with my aunt for 2 years while she tried to find work. Vivian traced the rim of her coffee cup. She was depressed. Wouldn't get out of bed some days. I was 12, and I remember thinking that I would never let anyone make me that weak. That's not weak. What? Being depressed after losing everything. Noah's voice was firm. That's human. That's what happens when you actually care about things. Vivian looked at him, this man who'd lost his wife and his job and his home, who'd been forced to rebuild from nothing with a grieving child depending on him. You would know, she said softly. Noah's jaw tightened. Yeah, I would. How did you keep going? After Emma died? She expected him to shut down, to tell her it was none of her business. But instead, Noah leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. I didn't have a choice, he said. Sadie needed me, so I got up every morning even when I wanted to die. I made her breakfast. I got her to school. I pretended everything was okay, even though my whole world had ended. That must have been unbearable. It was. Noah looked at her then, and his eyes were raw. But you want to know the strange part? Sadie saved me. Having to take care of her meant I couldn't just collapse. I had to function, had to survive. And eventually, survival turned into living again. Vivian felt something crack deeper in her chest. I'm so sorry I took that away from you. You didn't take it away. You just made it a hell of a lot harder. Noah stood abruptly, gathering the plates. But we survived anyway. We always do. He carried the dishes to the sink. Vivian stayed at the table, watching him wash them with careful precision. The thing is, Noah said, his back to her, I don't blame you for firing me, not anymore. You were right. I was unreliable. I was barely functional. I probably would have fired me too. Noah, but what I do blame you for is how you did it. He turned around, his hands gripping the edge of the sink. You looked at me like I was a problem to be solved, a line item to be deleted. You didn't see a person. You didn't even try. Vivian stood, her legs shaky. You're right. I didn't. And I don't know how to fix that. You can't fix it. It's done. Noah crossed his arms. But you can choose to be different going forward. That's what Sadie told you last night, right? Sorry is a start, but you have to do better next time. I want to do better. Then actually do it. Don't just feel bad. Don't just apologize. Change. Before Vivian could respond, Sadie appeared at Noah's elbow, tugging on his sleeve. Daddy, I need to get ready for school. Noah's entire demeanor shifted. The hardness melted away, replaced by gentle patience. Okay, Bug. Go pick out your clothes. I'll be there in a minute to help with your hair. Sadie ran off down the hallway, her footsteps light and quick. Noah looked at Vivian. I need to get her ready. You can wait here. Can I help? The question surprised them both. Noah frowned. Help how? I don't know. Whatever you need. Vivian felt foolish even suggesting it. What did she know about getting a 5-year-old ready for school? I don't need help. I know, but can I try? Noah stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Finally, he sighed. Fine. But if Sadie says no, you back off. Understood? Understood. They walked down the short hallway together. Sadie's room was small but cheerful, walls painted pale yellow, a twin bed with a purple comforter, shelves overflowing with books and toys. Sadie was standing in front of her closet, frowning at her clothes. I can't decide, she announced. The pink shirt or the blue one? What do you think? Noah asked. I think the pink one. But Emma is wearing pink today and I don't want to match. Vivian found herself smiling. What about the blue one with your purple leggings? Purple and blue go well together. Sadie turned to look at her, considering. You think so? Definitely. Okay. Sadie grabbed the blue shirt and purple leggings, then hesitated. Can you help me with my buttons? Daddy's good at hair, but he's not good at buttons. Hey, Noah protested mildly. I'm getting better at buttons. You're slow, Sadie said with the brutal honesty of children. Vivian knelt down. I can help with buttons. She worked carefully, fastening each button while Sadie chattered about what they were learning in school, about how she was the line leader this week, about how her teacher, Mrs. Martinez, was nice but strict about talking during quiet time. It was such an ordinary moment, a child getting dressed, a parent helping, the small, mundane rituals that made up a life. Vivian had never experienced anything like it. When the buttons were done, Noah took over, sitting Sadie down to brush and braid her hair. His hands were surprisingly deft, weaving the strands together with practiced ease. You're good at that, Vivian said. YouTube, Noah admitted. Watched about 50 videos until I figured it out. Emma used to do Sadie's hair every morning. After she died, Sadie wouldn't let me touch it for weeks. When she finally did, I knew I had to get it right. Sadie sat perfectly still, her small hands folded in her lap, completely trusting. All done, Noah said, tying off the braid with a purple hair elastic. Go brush your teeth. Sadie scampered off to the bathroom. Noah stood, rolling his shoulders. She's wonderful, Vivian said quietly. Yeah, she is. You're doing an incredible job with her. Noah looked at her, and for the first time his expression wasn't angry or cold, just exhausted. I'm doing my best. Some days that feels like enough. Most days it doesn't. For what it's worth, I think it's more than enough. It's not worth much coming from you. The words should have stung, but Vivian understood. She hadn't earned the right to have her praise mean anything. Sadie emerged from the bathroom, her teeth brushed, her backpack slung over one shoulder. Ready? Noah checked his watch. School bus comes in 10 minutes. Let's wait on the porch. They bundled up, Sadie in a puffy pink coat and boots, Noah in a heavy work jacket. Vivian stood awkwardly in the doorway, still wearing Noah's borrowed clothes, watching as they stepped out into the snow. The world outside was transformed, everything buried under fresh powder, the trees heavy with it, the morning light making it all sparkle like diamonds. It's beautiful, Vivian said. Noah didn't answer. He was watching the road, waiting for the bus. Sadie, however, was more interested in playing. She grabbed a handful of snow and tried to pack it into a ball, giggling when it fell apart. The snow's too powdery, Noah explained. Won't stick together until it warms up a bit. But I wanted to make a snowman. Maybe after school, if it gets warmer. Sadie pouted but accepted this. Then she looked at Vivian, her expression brightening. Do you want to help us make a snowman later? Vivian's throat tightened. I won't be here later, sweetheart. I have to go back to the city. Oh, Sadie's face fell. That's sad? Yeah, Vivian agreed. It is. The rumble of a diesel engine announced the arrival of the school bus. It came into view around the bend, yellow and bright against all that white. Sadie jumped up and down. Bye, Daddy. Bye, Vivian. She ran down the cleared path to the road. Noah followed, making sure she got on safely. He exchanged a few words with the bus driver, an older woman who smiled and waved, then stepped back as the doors closed. The bus pulled away, and Sadie's face appeared in one of the windows, waving frantically. Noah waved back until the bus disappeared around another curve. Then he stood there for a moment, alone in the snow, his shoulders slightly slumped. Vivian had seen that posture before, in her office, 3 months ago. The posture of a man carrying more weight than anyone should have to bear. Noah turned and walked back to the cabin. Vivian stepped aside to let him in. I should change, she said. Back into my own clothes. They're dry. I hung them up last night. Noah gestured to the bathroom. They're in there. Vivian went to the bathroom and found her suit hanging on the shower rod. The blouse was wrinkled. The blazer would need dry cleaning, but they were dry and intact. She changed slowly, shedding Noah's comfortable clothes for her own armor. The silk felt cold against her skin. The wool was stiff. The heels pinched her feet. When she looked in the mirror, Vivian Park, the CEO, stared back. Perfectly composed, completely controlled. But something in her eyes was different now. Softer, sadder. more human. She emerged from the bathroom to find Noah sitting at the table with a cup of coffee, staring out the window. "My car's probably totaled," Vivian said. "Maybe not. Cars are tougher than you think." "Even expensive ones?" Noah smiled slightly. "Especially expensive ones. They build them to protect the occupants at all costs." Vivian sat down across from him. "Can I ask you something?" "Depends on the question." "Why did you let me in last night? You could have closed the door, left me in the storm. I wouldn't have blamed you." Noah was quiet for a long time. "You think I wanted to?" "I think part of you did." "You're right. Part of me wanted to slam that door in your face and let you figure it out yourself." He traced the rim of his coffee cup. "But then I thought about Emma. About what she would have said if she knew I'd let someone freeze to death out of spite. She sounds like she was a good person. She was the best person." Noah's voice cracked slightly. "Kind, patient, funny, everything I'm not. I think you're all of those things." Noah looked at her sharply. "You don't know me." "No, but I know you saved my life. I know you're raising your daughter alone and doing a beautiful job of it. I know you could have been cruel to me, and you chose not to be. Don't make me into a saint. I'm not. I'm not. I'm just acknowledging what I see." They sat in silence. Outside, the sun climbed higher, melting the snow on the roof. Water dripped from the eaves in a steady rhythm. "What are you going to do?" Noah asked suddenly. "When you get back to the city?" Vivian considered the question carefully. "I don't know. Keep running my company, I suppose. Try to be better at it." "Are you actually going to change, or are you just going to feel guilty for a while and then go back to how things were?" The directness of it was like a slap, but Vivian forced herself to really think about the answer. "I want to change," she said finally, "but I don't know if I can. Being the person I've been, it's gotten me very far. It's made me successful, powerful, respected." "Alone," Noah added. Vivian blinked. "What?" "You said successful, powerful, respected. But you didn't say happy. You didn't say fulfilled. You didn't say loved." Noah leaned forward. "How many real friends do you have, Vivian? How many people actually know you?" The question hit harder than anything else he'd said. "I have colleagues," Vivian said weakly. "That's not what I asked. I have people I work with, people I respect. The people who would visit you in the hospital, people who would help you move, people who would listen to you cry at 2 a.m? Vivian couldn't answer because the answer was no. She had nobody like that. "I thought so," Noah said, but not unkindly. "You built yourself a fortress, Miss Park. Very strong, very impressive, very lonely." Vivian's eyes burned, but she refused to cry. "And you think I should tear it down?" "I think you should at least open a window. Let some air in. Let some people in." Noah paused. "Before you suffocate in there." Before Vivian could respond, her phone buzzed on the table. She'd plugged it in overnight to charge, and now it was coming back to life with a vengeance. Message after message flooded in. Marcus, her assistant. The board. Investors. All wondering where she was, why she'd missed the morning meeting, whether she was okay. Reality, rushing back in. "I need to make some calls," Vivian said. "Use the porch. Better signal out there." Vivian grabbed her phone and her coat and stepped outside. The cold hit her immediately, but her suit and heels made it feel different than last night. Less like dying, more like discomfort. She called Marcus first. "Vivian, thank God, where are you? The meeting with Burlington. I crashed my car last night. I'm fine, but I'm stuck in the mountains until they can tow it." "Oh my God, are you hurt?" "No, just stranded." Vivian hesitated. "Marcus, cancel everything today. Reschedule Burlington for next week." "But they flew in specifically." "I know. Apologize. Send them a gift basket. Do whatever you need to do, but I'm not making it today." Silence on the other end. Marcus had worked for Vivian for 3 years, and she'd never once canceled on a client. "Okay," he said finally. "Are you sure you're all right?" "I'm not hurt." "That's not what I asked." Vivian looked through the window at Noah, sitting alone at his table, staring at nothing. "I'll call you later," she said, and hung up. She made 2 more calls, one to her insurance company, one to the tow service to confirm the timing. Then she stood on the porch, breathing cold air, watching the snow melt in the morning sun. The door opened behind her. Noah stepped out, pulling on his coat. "Tow truck called," he said. "They're running early. Should be here in 20 minutes. "Oh, good." "Yeah." They stood side by side, not quite comfortable, but not quite enemies either. Somewhere in between, somewhere undefined. "Noah," Vivian said. "Yeah?" "If I asked you to come back to work, would you?" She felt him go very still beside her. "Is that what you're doing?" he asked. "Asking me to come back?" "I don't know, maybe. Would you want to?" Noah turned to face her fully. "You're serious?" "I think so." "You think so?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You can't even commit to the question. I'm trying to figure out if it would be the right thing or just me trying to ease my guilt." "And?" Vivian met his eyes. "Both, probably, but that doesn't make it wrong." Noah shook his head. "You don't get it. I don't want my old job back. I don't want to go back to 60-hour weeks in an office that doesn't care if my daughter has a school play or a doctor's appointment. I don't want to work for someone who sees me as a resource to be optimized." What if it was different? How? Remote work, flexible hours, real flexibility, not the fake kind where we say it's flexible, but everyone knows you're still expected to be available 24/7. Vivian was thinking out loud now, ideas forming as she spoke. What if I actually meant it? Noah studied her face. "Why would you do that?" "Because you're good at what you do. Because I was wrong to fire you. Because..." She took a breath. "Because I want to build a company that doesn't require people to choose between their work and their lives. That's not how Quantum Solutions operates. Then maybe it should be." A truck rumbled up the road, large, red, with a tow platform on the back. The driver waved. "That's you," Noah said. "Yeah." They walked down to meet the driver, a man in his 50s with a thick beard and kind eyes. He and Noah clearly knew each other, exchanged a few words about the storm, about Sadie, about how the roads were clearing. Vivian provided her insurance information and signed the necessary forms. The driver assured her he'd take the car to the best body shop in the area, that she'd have an estimate by tomorrow. "I'll drive you into town," Noah said. "You can rent a car from there." "You don't have to, "I know, but I'm going to anyway." They got into Noah's truck, an older Ford F-150 with a dent in the passenger door and Sadie's car seat in the back. It smelled like coffee and crayons and that indefinable scent of family life. The drive into town took 40 minutes. They didn't talk much. Noah focused on the road, still slick in places. Vivian stared out the window at the mountains, the forests, the small houses scattered along the highway. This world was so far from hers, so much quieter, slower, smaller, but not lesser, she realized. Just different. Noah pulled up in front of a small building with a sign that said Mountain Valley Rentals. "This is it," he said. Vivian unbuckled her seatbelt but didn't get out. "Thank you for everything." "You already said that." "I know, but I mean it." Noah nodded. "I know you do." "Will you think about it? What I said? About coming back to work?" "Yes." Noah drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. "I'll think about it, but I'm not promising anything." "Fair enough." Vivian reached for the door handle, then stopped. "Can I ask one more thing?" "What?" "If Sadie asks about the snowman, tell her I'm sorry I couldn't stay to help build it." Something in Noah's expression softened, just slightly. "I'll tell her." Vivian climbed out of the truck. She stood on the sidewalk, her designer heels sinking slightly into the slush, and watched as Noah drove away. Then she turned and walked into the rental office, back into her world, back into her life. But she carried something with her now, something she hadn't had 24 hours ago. The memory of a little girl's laughter, the weight of real consequence, the knowledge that her choices had faces and names and futures she'd never stopped to consider. And the faint, fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to change. The rental car smelled like chemical air freshener and someone else's coffee. Vivian sat in the driver's seat for 5 full minutes before starting the engine, staring at the steering wheel like it might have answers she didn't. Her phone buzzed again. Marcus. She ignored it. The drive back to Boston should have taken 4 hours. Vivian made it in 6 because she kept pulling over at rest stops, sitting in parking lots, unable to make herself complete the journey back to her life. At one stop, she bought terrible coffee from a vending machine and sat at a picnic table dusted with snow, watching families pass by. A father chasing a toddler, a mother wiping ice cream off a child's face. Normal people doing normal things, completely unaware that Vivian Park was having an existential crisis 30 feet away. She thought about Sadie's question. Why are you sad? Because I built everything on the wrong foundation, Vivian thought, and now I don't know how to rebuild without bringing it all down. By the time she reached Boston, the sun was setting. The city rose up around her, glass and steel and ambition. Everything she'd worked for compressed into a skyline that used to make her heart race with pride. Now it just looked cold. She drove straight to her apartment in the Seaport District, a place that cost more per month than Noah probably made in 6. Floor-to-ceiling windows, marble countertops, furniture from catalogs that promised urban sophistication. It felt like a hotel room, like a place someone stayed temporarily, not a home. Vivian dropped her keys on the counter and walked to the window. The city glittered below, alive with 1,000 lights, 1,000,000 people, all of them strangers. Her phone rang. Not a text this time, an actual call. Marcus. She answered. Hi. Oh, thank God you're alive. I was starting to think you'd driven off a cliff. I'm fine. You don't sound fine. You sound like you've been crying. I haven't been crying. Liar. Marcus had worked with her long enough to hear things she didn't say. What happened? And don't tell me it was just a car accident. You've handled worse without missing a beat. Vivian leaned her forehead against the cool glass. I ran into someone. From my past. An ex? Worse. An employee I fired. Silence on the other end. Then, carefully, do you want to talk about it? Did she? Vivian had never talked to Marcus about anything personal. Their relationship was professional, efficient, bounded by clear lines, but those lines felt meaningless now. He had a 5-year-old daughter, Vivian heard herself say. I knew his wife had died. I knew he was struggling, and I fired him anyway because he was late too many times. Oh, Vivian. I destroyed his life, Marcus. He lost his apartment, had to move to the middle of nowhere. And when I showed up at his door freezing in a snowstorm, he let me in anyway. He saved my life. What did he say? When he saw you, Vivian closed her eyes. He said I was broken in a way I didn't even know. And he was right. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. So what are you going to do? I don't know. Do you want my advice? Not particularly. I'm giving it anyway. Marcus's voice was firm. You're the smartest person I know, Vivian, but you're also the most afraid. You've spent years building walls so high nobody can see over them. Maybe it's time to let someone in. I don't know how. Then learn. You're good at learning things. After they hung up, Vivian stood at the window for another hour, watching the city move without her. Then she opened her laptop and started writing. Not an email, not a memo. A letter. Dear Noah, she began, then deleted it. Too formal. Noah, she tried again. I've been thinking about our conversation. Delete. She tried 7 different versions before settling on something that felt honest without being pathetic. Noah, I meant what I said about wanting you to come back. Not to your old position, but to something better, something that actually fits your life. I know I haven't earned your trust. I know words are cheap. But I want to try to do better, and I'd like you to be part of that. No pressure, no expectations, just an offer to talk about what might be possible. Vivian. She read it 12 times before hitting send, then immediately regretted it. What was she doing? He'd never respond. Why would he? She'd destroyed his life, and now she was bothering him with half-formed ideas about redemption. Vivian closed the laptop and went to bed, but sleep wouldn't come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Sadie's face, heard her innocent voice asking about snowmen. At 3 a.m, her phone buzzed. A text. From an unknown number. It's Noah. Marcus gave me your personal number. Hope that's okay. Vivian sat up so fast she nearly dropped the phone. She typed and deleted 4 responses before settling on, "Of course. I'm glad you reached out." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "I've been thinking too, about what you said. I'm not ready to say yes, but I'm not ready to say no either." "That's fair," Vivian typed back. "Can we talk?" "Not about work, just talk. I need to understand who you actually are before I can decide if I trust you." "When?" Vivian asked. "Tomorrow?" "I can drive down to Boston. Sadie has a half day at school. I can be there by 2. Vivian's heart raced. "Okay. Where?" "There's a park near the harbor. Christopher Columbus Park, you know it?" "Yes." 2 o'clock. "Don't be late." Vivian smiled despite herself. "I won't be." She didn't sleep after that. Just lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering what the hell she was doing and why it felt more important than anything she'd done in years. The next day crept by with agonizing slowness. Vivian went to the office because she couldn't stand being alone in her apartment. She sat through a board meeting without hearing a word, responded to emails without reading them, existed without actually being present. Marcus found her at noon, standing at her office window, staring at nothing. "You look terrible," he said. "Thank you." "I mean it. When's the last time you slept?" "Last night, technically." Marcus closed the door behind him and sat in one of her guest chairs, the expensive leather ones that were designed to make visitors slightly uncomfortable so meetings stayed short. "Are you going to tell me what's going on, or am I supposed to guess?" Vivian turned from the window. "I'm meeting him today." "Noah. The man I fired." "I know, I gave him your number, remember?" "Why did you do that?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Because you asked me to track down his contact information at midnight last night. Did you think I wouldn't put 2 and 2 together?" Vivian had no memory of asking Marcus to do that, but it sounded like something she might have done in her sleepless haze. "I don't know what I'm doing," she admitted. "Good." "Good?" "Yeah, good." Marcus leaned forward. "You know what to do, Vivian. You always know what to do. That's your problem. You've optimized every decision down to a formula. Maybe it's good that you don't know this time. Maybe it means you're actually feeling something. Feeling things is inefficient. Feeling things is human." Marcus stood up. "Go meet him. Talk to him. Stop trying to solve it like a business problem and just be honest." "I don't know how to do that." "Then mess it up. Say the wrong thing. Be awkward. Be human." Marcus headed for the door, then paused. "And Vivian, whatever happens, I'm proud of you for trying." He left before she could respond. At 1:30, Vivian left the office. She told her assistant she had an off-site meeting and would be back later. Maybe. Probably not. The walk to Christopher Columbus Park took 15 minutes. The weather had warmed since yesterday. The snow was melting, leaving everything wet and gray. The harbor smelled like salt and diesel fuel. Tourists clustered around the waterfront restaurants despite the cold. Vivian found a bench with a view of the water and sat down to wait. 2 o'clock came and went. 2:15. 2:30. Vivian's stomach twisted. He wasn't coming. Of course he wasn't coming. This was ridiculous. She'd been naive to think, "Sorry I'm late." She spun around. Noah stood behind the bench, hands shoved in his coat pockets, looking uncomfortable and determined in equal measure. "Traffic was worse than I expected," he continued. "Had to park 3 blocks away." Vivian stood quickly, then felt foolish for standing, then sat back down. "It's fine. I'm just glad you came." Noah moved around the bench and sat down, leaving a careful distance between them. They both stared at the water. "This is weird," Noah said finally. "Very weird. I don't even know why I'm here." Vivian glanced at him. "To understand who I actually am, that's what you said." "Right." Noah rubbed his face. "Okay, so tell me, who is Vivian Park when she's not firing people or running a company?" The question should have been easy. It wasn't. "I don't know," Vivian said honestly. "I've been Vivian Park, the CEO, for so long, I'm not sure there's anyone else left." "That's depressing." "Yeah." They sat in silence. A jogger passed by. A couple walked past pushing a stroller. Normal people living normal lives. "My turn," Vivian said. "Why did you really agree to meet me?" Noah was quiet for a moment. "Curiosity, mostly. I wanted to see if the woman who showed up at my cabin was real or if you'd go back to being the Ice Queen once you got home. And? Jury's still out. He looked at her. You're still wearing the armor, the suit, the heels, the whole thing. Vivian looked down at herself. He was right. She'd dressed for battle out of pure habit. I don't know how to be anything else, she said. Then maybe start small. Take off the armor for an hour. See what happens. I'm not literally taking off my clothes in a public park, Noah. He almost smiled. Not what I meant. I mean, stop performing. Stop being the CEO. Just be a person. I don't know if I remember how. Try. Vivian took a deep breath and tried to let go of the tension she'd been carrying since she woke up, unclenched her jaw, relaxed her shoulders, let herself slouch slightly instead of maintaining perfect posture. It felt terrifying and liberating in equal measure. Better? She asked. It's a start. Noah turned to face her more fully. Okay, real talk. Why did you become so ruthless? And don't give me the company line about efficiency and excellence. I want the real reason. Vivian's instinct was to deflect, but she'd promised honesty. I was afraid, she said, of being weak, of failing, of ending up like my mother. Tell me about your mother. So Vivian did. She told him about the failed business, the bankruptcy, the years of watching her mother dissolve into depression. She told him about being 12 years old and promising herself she'd never let anyone have that much power over her. I thought if I could just be strong enough, smart enough, ruthless enough, I'd be safe, Vivian finished. I thought caring about people was a weakness that would destroy me. And now? Now I think I was wrong, but I don't know how to undo 15 years of being this person. Noah nodded slowly. When Emma died, I thought I had to be strong for Sadie. No crying, no breaking down, just steady, reliable dad who had everything under control. What happened? I broke anyway, completely fell apart one night after I put Sadie to bed. Just sat on the floor and sobbed for 2 hours. Noah's voice was rough. And you know what? Sadie heard me, came out of her room and found me, and instead of being scared, she just crawled into my lap and hugged me. Vivian felt her throat tighten. She said, "It's okay to be sad, Daddy. Mommy would understand." And that's when I realized that trying to be strong all the time was actually making me weak. Real strength was letting her see that I was human, that I hurt, that I missed Emma too. How did you do it? Let yourself be vulnerable like that? I didn't have a choice. Grief doesn't care about your plans. Noah paused. But here's the thing. Once I stopped trying to be perfect, once I let Sadie see the real me, our relationship got better, stronger. She trusted me more because I was honest with her. Vivian absorbed this, feeling something shift in her chest. I don't have anyone to be vulnerable with, she said quietly. What about Marcus? He works for me. So? He clearly cares about you. I could hear it in his voice when I called. That's different. Why? Because it just is. Noah shook his head. You're doing it again, building walls, keeping people at arm's length. It's safer. Safer than what? Being alone for the rest of your life? The words hit like a punch. Vivian turned away, staring hard at the water. I fired you because you scared me, she said suddenly. Not because you were late, because you reminded me that life doesn't care about plans, that things fall apart no matter how carefully you build them, that control is an illusion. She felt Noah go still beside her. You were grieving and struggling and falling apart, and I couldn't handle it. So I made it about performance and reliability and company policy. But really, I just needed you gone, because looking at you made me remember that I'm not actually safe, that no amount of success or money or power can protect me from loss. Vivian finally looked at him. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Noah. Not because it's awkward or because I feel guilty, but because what I did was cruel and cowardly and wrong. And you deserved better. Noah's eyes were bright. He looked away quickly, but not before Vivian saw the emotion there. Thank you, he said roughly, for being honest. They sat in silence for a long time. A fairy horn sounded in the distance, Seagulls fought over something near the water's edge. I don't forgive you, Noah said eventually. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I don't know. I understand. But I appreciate you saying it. The real apology. Not the corporate one from the cabin. There's a difference? Yeah. One comes from your head, the other comes from your gut. Noah turned to look at her. That one came from your gut. Vivian nodded, not trusting her voice. So here's what I'm thinking, Noah continued. You want to make this right. You want to be better. Fine. Prove it. How? Come to dinner. Vivian blinked. What? Come to dinner. At my cabin. Tomorrow night. 6 o'clock. Noah's expression was challenging. Bring something for dessert. Meet Sadie properly. Eat at our table. See what a normal life actually looks like. I don't understand. Why would you invite me? Because words are easy, Vivian. You want to show me you've changed. Show me you can exist in my world, not as a CEO, not as someone offering me a job, just as a person. Vivian's heart pounded. Okay. Okay? Yes. I'll come to dinner. Noah studied her face like he was trying to determine if she was serious. 6 o'clock. Don't be late. I won't be. And Vivian, don't bring expensive wine or fancy cheese or whatever rich people bring to dinner parties. Bring something Sadie would like. Think about her, not about impressing me. Okay. Noah stood up. I need to get back. Sadie's with my neighbor, and I promised I'd be home by 4. Vivian stood as well. Thank you for meeting me, for giving me a chance. I haven't given you anything yet. Tomorrow will tell me if you mean what you say. He started to walk away, then turned back. And Vivian, leave the armor at home. Show up as yourself, whoever that is, not the version you think I want to see. Then he was gone, disappearing into the crowd of pedestrians, leaving Vivian standing alone by the water. She stayed there for another hour, watching the sun sink lower, thinking about what Noah had asked her to do. Show up as herself. But who was that? Vivian had spent so long being the CEO, the entrepreneur, the success story, she genuinely didn't know who she was underneath all that. Maybe that was the point. Maybe she needed to figure it out. That night, Vivian did something she hadn't done in years. She called her mother. The phone rang 4 times before a familiar voice answered. Vivian, is everything all right? Because of course her mother would assume something was wrong. Vivian only called on birthdays and holidays, and even then the conversations were brief and stilted. Hi, Mom. I'm fine. I just wanted to talk. Silence on the other end. Then, carefully, about what? About the business. The one you had. Before it failed. More silence. This was dangerous territory they never discussed. Why are you asking about that? Her mother asked. Because I think I've been angry at you for 15 years, and I'm trying to understand why. Her mother's breath hitched. Oh, sweetheart. I blamed you, Vivian continued, for being too soft, too kind, too willing to put people before profit. I thought that's why everything fell apart. It was why everything fell apart, her mother said quietly. I made bad decisions, kept employees I should have let go, extended credit I couldn't afford. I let my heart overrule my head, and we lost everything. But you were trying to be a good person. Being good doesn't pay the bills, Vivian. You learned that lesson better than I did. Vivian closed her eyes. I think I learned the wrong lesson, Mom. I went so far in the opposite direction that I forgot there's supposed to be a middle ground. What happened? So Vivian told her about Noah, about Sadie, about the cabin and the storm, and the crushing realization that her strength was actually brittle armor that could shatter at any moment. Her mother listened without interrupting. When Vivian finished, she was quiet for a long time. I'm proud of you, she finally said. What? Why? Because you're questioning yourself, trying to grow. That takes more courage than being certain all the time. I've been so angry at you, Vivian whispered. I know, sweetheart, and maybe you had a right to be. I made mistakes, bad ones, but I also loved my employees, cared about their families, tried to build something that was about more than just profit. And it destroyed us. Yes, But Vivian, you're not me. You don't have to choose between being successful and being human. You can be both. I don't know how. Then figure it out. You're smart enough. Her mother's voice was gentle. And maybe start by forgiving yourself. You were 12 years old when everything fell apart. That wasn't your burden to carry. After they hung up, Vivian sat in her expensive apartment and cried for the first time in years. Not pretty crying. Ugly, gut-wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. She cried for the little girl who'd watched her mother break. She cried for Noah and Sadie and everything she'd cost them. She cried for all the years she'd spent building walls instead of relationships. And when she was done, she felt empty, but somehow lighter. The next day, Vivian left work at 3. Didn't tell anyone where she was going, just grabbed her coat and walked out, ignoring the surprised looks from her staff. She stopped at a bakery and spent 20 minutes trying to decide on dessert before settling on chocolate cupcakes with rainbow sprinkles, something a 5-year-old would love. Then she went home, changed out of her suit and into jeans and a sweater, and stared at herself in the mirror. Without the armor, she looked younger, smaller, more uncertain, more human. At 4:30, she got in her car and started driving north. The closer she got to the mountains, the more her stomach twisted with nerves. What was she doing? She didn't know how to have dinner with a normal family, didn't know how to talk to children, didn't know how to be anything other than Vivian Park, CEO. But she kept driving anyway. She arrived at the cabin at 5:55, exactly on time, not early, not late. She sat in the car for 3 minutes, gripping the box of cupcakes, trying to calm her racing heart. Then she got out and walked to the door and knocked. Sadie opened it, her face lighting up with delight. "Vivian, you came. Daddy said you might not come, but I knew you would." "Hi, Sadie, I brought cupcakes." "With sprinkles?" "With rainbow sprinkles." Sadie grabbed her hand and pulled her inside. "Come see my room. I cleaned it for you." Noah appeared from the kitchen, wearing an apron that said Grill Master and holding a wooden spoon. He looked surprised to see her, which stung until Vivian realized he genuinely expected her not to show. "You came," he said. "I said I would." "People say a lot of things." Sadie was still tugging on Vivian's hand. "Daddy, can I show her my room now?" Noah hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes, Bug. Then we're eating." Sadie dragged Vivian down the hallway to her small, cheerful room. It was exactly as Vivian remembered. Yellow walls, purple bedding, toys everywhere. "This is Mr. Snuggles," Sadie said, holding up a worn teddy bear. "Mommy gave him to me when I was born. And this is Princess Rainbow. She's my second favorite. And this is—" She went through every stuffed animal, every toy, every book, explaining their significance with the earnest intensity of a child sharing her treasures. Vivian sat on the floor and listened, really listened, and felt something inside her unknot. "Sadie, dinner!" Noah called. They ate at the small kitchen table, spaghetti with meat sauce, garlic bread, and a simple salad. Nothing fancy, but everything made with care. Sadie chattered nonstop about school, about her friend Emma, about how they were learning about butterflies, and she wanted to raise caterpillars, but Daddy said maybe next year. Noah watched Vivian carefully, like he was waiting for her to break character, to check her phone, to make an excuse to leave. But Vivian didn't. She just sat there, eating average spaghetti at a scratch table in a tiny cabin, and felt more present than she had in years. After dinner, they had the cupcakes. Sadie ate hers with exaggerated delight, getting frosting all over her face. "These are the best cupcakes in the whole world," she declared. "I'm glad you like them," Vivian said. "Do you have kids?" Sadie asked suddenly. "Sadie," Noah warned. "What?" "I'm just asking." "No," Vivian said. "I don't have kids." "Why not?" "I've been too busy with work." Sadie considered this. "That's sad. Kids are really fun." "You're right, they are." After Sadie was put to bed, with a request for Vivian to come read stories next time, Noah and Vivian sat on the couch with coffee. "Thank you for inviting me," Vivian said. "Thank you for coming, and for not being weird about it." "Was I weird about it?" "No, that's what surprised me." Noah turned to look at her. "I expected you to show up in your armor, check your phone constantly, make it clear you were slumming it, but you didn't." "I'm trying." "I can see that." Noah was quiet for a moment. So here's the thing, Vivian. I've been thinking about your offer. Vivian's heart stopped. And? I can't go back to what it was. I won't. But if you really mean what you say about flexibility, about actually valuing life outside of work, about building something different, I might be interested. You are? Maybe, but I have conditions. Name them. Noah held up a hand, ticking off fingers. 1, I work remotely unless there's a real reason to come in. 2, if Sadie's sick or has a school thing, I'm not there and nobody makes me feel guilty about it. 3, you hire other parents and actually give them the same flexibility. This can't just be special treatment for me. Done. Just like that? Just like that. Noah studied her face. Why? Because you're right. Because I want to build something better. Because I'm tired of running a company that treats people like machines. Vivian set down her coffee. And because I think you can help me do it, not just as an employee, as someone who reminds me what actually matters. That's a lot of pressure. I know, but you've already survived worse. Noah smiled slightly. Fair point. They talked for another hour about what it might look like, this new version of quantum solutions. Vivian took notes on her phone, then caught herself and put it away. Sorry, habit. It's okay. This is good. Important. Noah leaned back. But Vivian, I need to know this is real, not just guilt, not just a phase, real change. How do I prove that? Time, consistency, actually doing what you say you'll do. Noah's expression was serious. Because if you bring me back and then revert to who you were, it'll break me. And worse, it'll break Sadie. She liked you tonight. She'll be devastated if you disappear. The weight of that responsibility settled on Vivian's shoulders. But instead of feeling heavy, it felt grounding, like an anchor. I won't disappear, Vivian said. I promise. Promises are easy. Then watch me keep it. Noah looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, let's try this. But slowly, part-time to start. See how it goes. Whatever you need. And Vivian, one more thing. What? That little girl in there? She's going to want to be your friend now. She's going to ask when you're coming back, what you're doing, if you can come to her school play. Are you ready for that? Vivian thought about her empty apartment, her non-existent friendships, her carefully controlled life. No, she admitted. But I want to be. Noah smiled, really smiled, for the first time. Then I guess we're both learning. When Vivian left that night, Sadie insisted on walking her to the car. She hugged Vivian's legs tightly. Will you come back soon? She asked. If your dad says it's okay. Daddy? Can she? Noah stood in the doorway, backlit by the warm glow of the cabin. Yeah, Bug. She can come back. Vivian drove home with tears streaming down her face, but this time they weren't from grief or shame. They were from hope. The following Monday, Vivian walked into her office at 7 in the morning and found Marcus already there, 2 cups of coffee on her desk. We need to talk, he said. Vivian hung up her coat, noticing he'd closed the door behind him. That was never a good sign. About? About the fact that you've been different since you came back from Vermont. Distracted, checking your phone constantly, smiling at random moments. He handed her one of the coffees. So either you've met someone, or you're planning to burn the company down. I need to know which. Vivian sat down, cradling the warm cup. What if it's both? Then I need details immediately. So she told him. Not everything, but enough. About Noah coming back part-time. About wanting to restructure how the company approached work-life balance. About maybe, possibly, completely rebuilding their culture from the ground up. Marcus listened without interrupting, his expression shifting from concern to surprise to something that looked almost like pride. You're serious, he said when she finished. I think so. Yes. The board is going to lose their minds. I know. Our investors are going to think you've had a breakdown. Probably. Marcus set down his coffee and leaned forward. Then let's do it right. You want to change the company culture? Fine. But we need a strategy. We need data. We need to prove this works before we roll it out company-wide. What are you suggesting? Start with a pilot program. Noah and maybe 3 or 4 other employees. Remote work, flexible schedules, the whole thing. Track productivity, employee satisfaction, retention. Give it 6 months. If the numbers support it, then we go to the board with evidence, not just good intentions. Vivian felt a weight lift off her chest. This was why she valued Marcus. He didn't just tell her what she wanted to hear. He helped her figure out how to actually make it work. "That's perfect," she said. "Can you put together a proposal?" "Already started it." Marcus pulled out his laptop. "I figured this was coming after you bailed on the Burlington meeting to have a personal crisis in the mountains." "I didn't bail. I rescheduled." "You never reschedule, Vivian." That's how I knew something fundamental had shifted. They spent the next 3 hours mapping out the pilot program. Which departments could support remote work? How to measure success? What policies needed to change? Marcus suggested they start with the engineering team since that was Noah's area and remote work was already common in tech. "We should call it something," Marcus said. "Give it a name so people know it's official." "Like what?" "I don't know. The Flexibility Initiative? The Work-Life Integration Program?" He made a face. "Those sound terrible." "What about the Second Chance Program?" Vivian suggested quietly. Marcus looked at her, understanding dawning in his eyes. Yeah, that works." By the time they finished, Vivian's calendar was full of meetings she'd need to have, people she'd need to convince, policies she'd need to rewrite. It was overwhelming and terrifying and more exciting than anything she'd done in years. Her phone buzzed. A text from Noah. "Sadie wants to know if you're coming to dinner again this week. I told her to stop asking, but she's relentless." Vivian smiled and typed back, "Tell her I'd love to. When works for you?" 3 dots appeared, then, "Friday? Fair warning, she's going to want to show you her school project. It involves a lot of glitter. I can handle glitter. We'll see about that." Vivian looked up to find Marcus watching her with an amused expression. "What?" she asked. "Nothing. You're just smiling at your phone. It's weird." "I smile." "At spreadsheets, maybe, not at text messages." Marcus stood up, gathering his laptop. "Whoever this person is, they're good for you." "It's not like that." "Sure it's not." After he left, Vivian sat alone in her office, looking out at the Boston skyline. 2 weeks ago, she'd stood at this same window feeling invincible and alone. Now she felt uncertain and terrified and somehow more alive than she'd been in years. Her phone rang. Unknown number. "Vivian Park," she answered automatically. "Ms. Park? This is Janet Martinez, Sadie Hale's teacher at Mountain Valley Elementary." Vivian's stomach dropped. "Is Sadie okay?" "Oh, she's fine. Sorry, I should have led with that." The woman's voice was warm and slightly apologetic. "I'm calling because Sadie mentioned you're a friend of the family, and she's very excited about our career day next month. I wondered if you might be interested in participating." "Career day?" "We invite parents and family friends to come talk about their jobs. Sadie was quite insistent that I call you. She says you're a CEO and you're very important but also nice now." Vivian almost laughed. "She said that?" "Word for word." "So what do you think?" "It would just be 30 minutes talking to the kindergarten and first grade classes about what you do." Every instinct told Vivian to decline. She had a company to run, meetings to attend, important things to do. Career day at an elementary school 3 hours away was not a strategic use of her time. But then she thought about Sadie's face when she'd opened the door Friday night, about the promise she'd made not to disappoint her. "When is it?" Vivian asked. "February 14th, Valentine's Day. Starts at 10 in the morning." Vivian opened her calendar. She had a quarterly review meeting that morning, one she'd scheduled 6 months ago, one that half the executive team would be attending. "I'll be there," she heard herself say. "Wonderful. I'll send you the details via email. Sadie will be so thrilled." After they hung up, Vivian stared at her calendar, wondering what the hell she'd just committed to. Then she called Marcus back. "I need you to reschedule the quarterly review," she said. "To when?" "The week after. I have to be at an elementary school on Valentine's Day." Silence. Then, "I'm sorry, what?" "You heard me?" "Vivian, that meeting is critical. We have board members flying in specifically for it." "Then tell them we're moving it. This is important." More silence. Then Marcus said quietly, "This is about the little girl, isn't it? Noah's daughter." "Yes." Okay, I'll make it happen. He paused. But Vivian, the board is going to ask questions. What do I tell them? Tell them the CEO has a prior commitment. They're going to want details. Then tell them the truth, that I'm trying to be a better person, and that means showing up for the people who matter. She could almost hear Marcus smiling through the phone. That's going to go over well. I don't care. And she realized she meant it. For the first time in her career, she genuinely didn't care if the board approved or understood. She'd made a commitment to a 5-year-old girl, and that mattered more than their quarterly numbers. The rest of the week passed in a blur. Vivian met with HR to draft new remote work policies. She had uncomfortable conversations with department heads who thought she'd lost her mind. She stayed late 3 nights in a row, rebuilding systems she'd spent years creating. But she also left at 5 on Friday, something she hadn't done in years, to drive to Vermont for dinner with Noah and Sadie. This time, Sadie met her at the door holding a picture she'd drawn. It was of 3 stick figures labeled Me, Daddy, and Vivian, standing in front of a house. Do you like it? Sadie asked anxiously. I love it, Vivian said, and meant it. Can I keep it? Really? Really? Sadie beamed and threw her arms around Vivian's waist. The gesture was so spontaneous, so full of trust, that Vivian felt tears prick her eyes. Noah appeared in the doorway, shaking his head, but smiling. You've created a monster. She's been talking about you all week. I talked to her teacher, Vivian said, about career day. Yeah, she mentioned that. You don't have to do it if it's too much. I want to. Noah studied her face. You sure? It's not exactly a boardroom. I'm sure. Dinner that night was chicken tacos, messy and delicious. Sadie taught Vivian how to make a proper taco, which apparently involved way too much cheese and sour cream. They ate on the couch because Sadie wanted to watch a movie, some animated thing about talking animals that Vivian had never heard of. Halfway through, Sadie fell asleep with her head on Vivian's lap. Noah looked over and smiled. She really likes you. I really like her too, Vivian said softly, carefully stroking Sadie's hair. She doesn't usually warm up to people this fast. But I think she sees something in you. Noah paused. Or maybe she just has good instincts about people who are trying. I am trying. I know. Noah stood up. I should put her to bed. Give me a minute. He gently lifted Sadie, who mumbled something about tacos in her sleep, and carried her down the hall. Vivian sat alone in the dim living room, the movie still playing on mute, feeling a strange sense of peace. When Noah returned, he brought 2 beers and sat down beside her. So I have a question, he said. Okay. Why are you really doing this? The job offer, the policy changes, the dinner visits? What do you get out of it? Vivian took a sip of beer, considering her answer carefully. Honestly, I don't know what I get out of it. That's not why I'm doing it. Then why? Because for the first time in 15 years, I feel like I'm building something that matters. Not just a company, not just a valuation, something real. She looked at him. Does that make sense? Yeah, it does. Noah was quiet for a moment. You know what Emma used to say? She said the measure of a good life wasn't what you achieved, but who you became in the process of achieving it. She sounds like she was very wise. She was. Noah's voice was thick with emotion. And she would have liked what you're trying to do. She always believed people deserved second chances. Do you believe that? I'm starting to. They sat in comfortable silence, drinking their beers, watching the movie neither of them were paying attention to. I'm scared, Vivian admitted suddenly, that I'll mess this up, that I'll fall back into old patterns, that I'll disappoint Sadie. Disappoint you. You probably will mess up sometimes, Noah said. That's part of being human. The question is what you do after. What do you mean? I mean, when you inevitably have a bad day and revert to being CEO Ice Queen, do you recognize it and correct course? Or do you decide it's too hard and give up? Noah turned to look at her. That's what I'm watching for. Not perfection, just persistence. Vivian nodded, filing that away. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you ever regret it? Coming back to work for me? Noah laughed. I haven't actually come back yet. I start Monday, remember? Right, but do you have regrets about saying yes? Ask me in 6 months. Noah's expression turned serious. But honestly, I'm cautiously optimistic. You seem different. Whether that sticks or not, time will tell. I'm going to make it stick. Good. Because Sadie's already planning your next visit. She wants to build a snowman if it snows again. Vivian smiled. I'd like that. She left around 9, with Sadie's drawing carefully rolled up in her bag and a lighter feeling in her chest than she'd had in years. The drive back to Boston felt shorter this time, like the distance between her two worlds was shrinking. Monday morning, Noah started work, remotely, from his cabin, on a schedule he'd designed himself around Sadie's school hours. Vivian fought the urge to micromanage, to check in constantly, to verify he was actually working. Instead, she sent one message. Welcome back. Let me know if you need anything. His response came an hour later. Thanks. Setting up now. Sadie says hi. Tell her I say hi back. 3 other employees joined the Second Chance program that week. A single mother who'd been struggling with childcare. A man caring for his aging father. A woman going through a divorce who needed flexibility to deal with lawyers and court dates. Vivian met with each of them personally, explaining the program, setting expectations, making it clear this wasn't a vacation but a genuine attempt to build something better. I can't promise this will be easy, she told them, and I can't promise I won't make mistakes, but I can promise I'm committed to making this work. Marcus tracked everything religiously. Productivity metrics, satisfaction surveys, how many meetings people attended versus how many they missed. Within 2 weeks, the data was already showing promise. Remote workers were actually more productive, not less. Satisfaction scores were up. Nobody had quit. This is working, Marcus said, showing her the numbers. Like, genuinely working. Don't sound so surprised. I'm not surprised. I'm relieved. He closed his laptop. You know the board is going to want to see this at the next meeting, right? I know. Are you ready for that conversation? Vivian thought about Noah and Sadie, about the other employees in the program, about the promise she'd made to actually change. Yeah, she said. I am. The next Friday, Vivian made the drive to Vermont again. This time she brought board games she'd researched online as being appropriate for 5-year-olds. Sadie was delighted, and they spent 2 hours playing Candyland and Chutes and Ladders, with Sadie winning most of the time through a combination of luck and Vivian's complete lack of experience with children's games. After Sadie went to bed, Noah opened a bottle of wine. I need to tell you something, he said, pouring 2 glasses. Vivian's stomach tightened. That sounds ominous. It's not bad, just surprising. Noah handed her a glass. I'm happy, like actually happy, for the first time since Emma died. That's wonderful, Noah. The thing is, I didn't think I could be happy again. I thought that part of my life was over, that the best I could hope for was survival. He sat down beside her. But this past month, working on my own terms, having time with Sadie, seeing you make a genuine effort to change, it's given me hope. I'm glad. And I wanted to say thank you, not for the job, for seeing us as people, for caring enough to try. Vivian felt her throat tighten. You don't need to thank me for basic decency. Except it's not basic, Vivian. Most people don't change. They say they will, but they don't. The fact that you're actually doing it. Noah shook his head. It matters. More than you know. They talked late into the night about everything and nothing. About Noah's hopes for Sadie's future. About Vivian's fears about the board meeting. About whether it was possible to build a successful company without sacrificing humanity. I think it is, Noah said. Possible, I mean. But it requires constant vigilance. You have to keep choosing people over profit, even when it's hard. What if I can't afford to? Then you find a way. Cut your own salary, reduce shareholder returns, make the hard choices that actually prioritize what matters. Vivian absorbed this, knowing he was right and dreading what it might mean for her relationship with the board. When she finally left that night, Noah walked her to her car. Vivian, he said as she was getting in. Yeah? I'm proud of you for what you're doing. Emma would be too. The words hit her squarely in the chest. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak, and drove away with tears streaming down her face for the 3rd time in as many weeks. The board meeting was scheduled for the last Thursday of January. Vivian prepared for it like she was preparing for battle, running through her presentation a dozen times, anticipating every objection, building her case with data and logic and irrefutable evidence. Marcus sat in on her practice runs, offering feedback and moral support. "You've got this," he said after her final rehearsal. "The numbers speak for themselves. Numbers aren't enough, not with this board. Then remind them what the company is supposed to stand for, why you built it in the first place." Vivian thought about that. Why had she built quantum solutions? To prove she was strong, to prove she wasn't her mother, to create something that couldn't be taken away. But maybe it was time for new reasons. The morning of the meeting, Vivian put on her favorite suit, navy blue, perfectly tailored, expensive enough to convey authority. Her armor, as Noah called it. But this time, it felt different, less like protection and more like a uniform, something she wore to do a job, not to hide who she was. The board members filed into the conference room at 9 sharp, 7 of them, all older than Vivian, all men except for one woman who'd made it clear she thought Vivian was too soft to run a tech company. Vivian stood at the head of the table and began her presentation. She walked them through the Second Chance program, showed them the productivity data, the satisfaction scores, the retention rates, explained how remote work and flexible scheduling were actually improving performance, not hindering it. "This is all very interesting," said Robert Chen, the oldest board member and the most traditional. "But what's the real cost? Not just in dollars, but in company culture, in commitment, in the kind of dedication it takes to build a successful company." "With respect, Robert, I think we've been defining dedication wrong," Vivian said. "We've equated it with hours in the office, with being available 24/7, with sacrificing everything for the company. But what if true dedication is about sustainability? About building a culture where people can bring their whole selves to work because they're not constantly choosing between their jobs and their lives?" "That sounds nice in theory," said Patricia Wong, the other woman on the board. "But in practice, every company that's tried this has seen productivity drop. People take advantage, standards slip." "Then we set clear standards and hold people accountable to them," Vivian countered. "But we judge them on results, not on face time, on quality of work, not hours logged." The debate went on for an hour. Questions came from all sides, some genuine, some clearly designed to poke holes in her proposal. Vivian answered each one, staying calm, presenting evidence, refusing to be defensive. Finally, Robert leaned back in his chair. "Vivian, can I ask you something off the record?" "Of course." "What's really driving this? Because I've worked with you for 5 years and this is completely out of character. You've built this company on the principle of excellence above all else. Suddenly, you're talking about flexibility and work-life balance like you've had a religious conversion. What changed?" Vivian could have lied, could have kept it professional. But she'd promised Noah she'd be honest, even when it was hard. "I fired someone 3 months ago," she said quietly. "A good employee who was struggling after his wife died. I fired him because he was late too many times, and I convinced myself it was the right decision. That it was about standards and consistency." The room was completely silent. "Then I crashed my car in a snowstorm and ended up at his cabin, and I saw what my decision had really cost. Not just him, but his 5-year-old daughter, his whole life. And I realized that I'd been confusing strength with cruelty, excellence with inhumanity." Vivian looked around the table, meeting each person's eyes. "I built this company to prove I wasn't weak, to prove I could make the hard decisions. But I'd lost sight of why those decisions mattered. So yes, Robert, I changed, because I refused to build something successful that's also soulless." Robert was quiet for a long moment. "And this employee, did you rehire him?" "Yes. He's part of the pilot program." "Is this whole thing about assuaging your guilt?" "Partially, but it's also about being better, about building a company I can actually be proud of." Patricia spoke up. "And if we say no? If we shut this down?" Vivian took a deep breath. "Then I'll have to reconsider my position as CEO." Shock rippled around the table. "You'd leave the company over this?" Robert asked. "I'd leave rather than continue running it the way I have been." "Yes." Marcus, sitting in the corner taking notes, looked like he might have a heart attack, but Vivian felt strangely calm. She'd meant what she said. If she couldn't build the company she wanted, she didn't want to build it at all. The board members exchanged looks. Finally, Robert spoke. "We need to discuss this privately. Give us the room." Vivian and Marcus filed out, closing the door behind them. They stood in the hallway, not speaking, barely breathing. "Did you just threaten to quit?" Marcus whispered. "I think so." "Are you insane?" "Probably." They waited for 45 minutes that felt like 45 hours. Finally, the door opened. Robert beckoned them back in. Vivian's heart pounded as she took her seat. "We've discussed your proposal," Robert said, "and we have concerns about precedent, about costs, about long-term sustainability." Vivian's heart sank. "However," Robert continued, "we also recognize that you've built this company from nothing, that your instincts have been sound more often than not. And frankly, the data you've presented is compelling." Hope flickered in Vivian's chest. "So, here's what we're prepared to offer. 6 months to prove this works. You expand the program carefully, you track everything, and you report back to us quarterly. If the numbers continue to support it, we'll consider making it permanent. But if productivity drops, if standards slip, if this turns into the disaster we think it might, we revisit everything. Agreed?" Vivian wanted to argue for more, to push for a full commitment, but she recognized a win when she saw one. "Agreed," she said. Handshakes around the table, polite congratulations. But Vivian could see the skepticism in their eyes. They thought she'd fail, thought she'd come crawling back in 6 months, admitting they'd been right all along. She'd just have to prove them wrong. That night, Vivian drove straight to Vermont. It was after 9 when she arrived, but she couldn't wait. She knocked on Noah's door, practically bouncing with nervous energy. Noah opened it, surprise on his face. "Vivian? What are you doing here?" They said yes. The board. They approved the program. "That's incredible. 6-month trial. I have to prove it works." But they said yes. Noah pulled her into a hug, and Vivian let herself be held, let herself feel the victory she'd just won. "I knew you could do it," he said. "I couldn't have without you. Without seeing what you and Sadie have built here, without understanding what actually matters." They stood on the porch, the winter air cold around them, and Vivian felt something shift inside her, like a door opening that she'd kept locked for years. "Stay for hot chocolate?" Noah offered. "I'd love that." They sat at his kitchen table, drinking cocoa topped with marshmallows that Sadie had picked out, and Vivian told him everything about the meeting. Noah listened, asked questions, and helped her think through her next steps. "You're going to need to hire more people like me," he said. "Not just accommodate existing employees, but actively recruit people who need flexibility." "Like who?" "Military spouses who move frequently. People with disabilities who work better from home. Parents, obviously. Caregivers. Anyone who's been shut out of traditional employment because they don't fit the mold." Vivian pulled out her phone and started taking notes. "This is good. This is really good. And you need to train your managers, because they're going to resist. They're going to think people are taking advantage. You need to change the whole culture, not just the policies." They talked until midnight, planning and dreaming and building something better than what had been before. And when Vivian finally left, driving home through the dark Vermont night, she felt more purposeful than she had in years. She was building something that mattered, not just for herself, but for people like Noah and Sadie, for everyone who'd been told they had to choose between their work and their lives. And she wasn't going to let them down. February 14th arrived cold and bright, the kind of winter morning that made everything look crisp and new. Vivian stood in the parking lot of Mountain Valley Elementary School at 9:45, clutching a folder of notes she'd prepared for Career Day and wondering if she'd made a terrible mistake. Through the windows, she could see children running around, their voices carrying across the playground, normal children doing normal things, and she was supposed to go in there and talk to them about being a CEO without sounding like a robot. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "The quarterly review is rescheduled for next Tuesday. Board members are confused but accommodating. Don't mess this up." She typed back, "Which thing? Career Day or the review? Both. But especially Career Day. That little girl is counting on you." Vivian knew he was right. She took a deep breath, grabbed her folder, and walked toward the entrance. The school smelled like crayons and cafeteria food, and something indefinably childlike that Vivian couldn't name. Mrs. Martinez met her at the office, a warm woman in her 50s with laugh lines and kind eyes. Ms. Park, so wonderful to meet you. Sadie has talked about you non-stop for 2 weeks. She led Vivian down a hallway covered in student artwork. We have 4 other presenters today, but I have to say, you're the one the kids are most excited about. Apparently you're important, but also nice now. Vivian laughed despite her nerves. Sadie has very strong opinions. She does, and she's usually right about people. Mrs. Martinez stopped outside a classroom door. You'll be presenting to the combined kindergarten and first grade classes, about 30 kids total. Just talk about what you do, why you love it, and maybe take some questions. Keep it simple and fun. Simple and fun. Got it. Mrs. Martinez opened the door, and Vivian stepped into controlled chaos. Children sat in a circle on a colorful rug, wiggling and whispering and radiating energy. And there, in the front row, was Sadie, her face lighting up like the sun. "Vivian!" she shouted, then clapped her hand over her mouth as Mrs. Martinez gave her a look. "Inside voices, Sadie. Sorry." But Sadie was grinning so hard Vivian thought her face might split. The other children stared at Vivian with unfiltered curiosity. She suddenly felt very tall and very overdressed in her tailored pants and cashmere sweater. "Class, this is Ms. Park. She's Sadie's friend and she's going to tell us about her job." Mrs. Martinez gestured to a chair they'd set up. "Whenever you're ready." Vivian sat down and 30 pairs of eyes fixed on her. She'd given presentations to investors worth hundreds of millions of dollars. She'd pitched venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. She'd faced down hostile board members without breaking a sweat. But 36-year-olds were somehow more intimidating than all of that combined. "Hi, everyone," she started, her voice too formal. "My name is Vivian Park, and I'm a CEO. Does anyone know what a CEO is?" A boy in the back row shot his hand up. "It means you're the boss of everything." "That's close. I'm the CEO of a technology company, which means I help lead the company and make decisions about how we work." "Do you fire people?" a little girl asked. Vivian's stomach clenched. "Sometimes, but I've learned that's not the most important part of my job. The most important part is taking care of the people who work for me." "My dad says bosses are mean," another boy offered. "Some are," Vivian admitted. "I used to be mean too, but I'm trying to be better." "Why were you mean?" Sadie asked, her voice small. Vivian met her eyes. "Because I was scared. I thought being nice meant being weak. But I was wrong." The children absorbed this with the seriousness of tiny philosophers. Then a girl with pigtails raised her hand. "What do you actually do all day?" "Good question. I spend a lot of time in meetings, talking to people about how to make our company better. I also work on my computer, writing emails and looking at numbers that tell us how we're doing. And I try to help solve problems when they come up." "That sounds boring," the boy from earlier said. Several children giggled. Mrs. Martinez started to intervene, but Vivian smiled. "Sometimes it is boring, but sometimes it's exciting, like when we're building something new or helping someone succeed. And the best part is working with people I care about." She looked at Sadie again. "I have a friend named Noah who works for my company. He has a daughter named Sadie." She gestured to the beaming little girl. "And getting to know both of them has taught me that the most important thing about being a CEO isn't making money or being powerful. It's making sure everyone who works with you can have a good life." "Like my daddy," Sadie burst out. "He gets to work from home now and pick me up from school every day." "Exactly like your daddy." The questions came faster after that. "What's your favorite part of your job? Do you have a big office? Do you get to tell people what to do? How much money do you make?" That last one made Mrs. Martinez intervene, explaining that asking about money wasn't polite. But Vivian answered anyway. "I make a lot of money. More than I need, and I'm learning that having money isn't as important as having people who care about you." "Do you have people who care about you?" a quiet girl asked. The question landed like a gentle punch. Vivian thought about Marcus, who'd stuck with her through this entire transformation. About Noah, who'd given her a second chance. About Sadie, who'd hugged her without hesitation. "I do now," she said. "I didn't always. But I'm very lucky to have found them." After 30 minutes, Mrs. Martinez thanked her, and the children gave her a round of applause. Sadie ran up and hugged her legs. "You were so good," she whispered. Everyone loved you. Thanks, sweetheart. Can you stay for lunch? We're having pizza. Vivian checked her watch. She had a conference call at 1. She should say no, should get back on the road, should return to her real life. I'd love to stay for lunch, she heard herself say. She texted Marcus. Staying for school lunch. Reschedule the 1 o'clock. His response, You're really committing to this whole new you thing, aren't you? Yeah, I think I am. Lunch was in the cafeteria, a room full of noise and chaos and children being children. Vivian sat at a table with Sadie and her friends, eating pizza that was somehow both soggy and delicious, listening to 6-year-olds debate the merits of various cartoon characters. Sadie's friend Emma leaned over. Are you Sadie's mom? No, sweetie, I'm her friend. Oh, she talks about you like you're her mom. Vivian's throat tightened. She looked at Sadie, who was suddenly very interested in her pizza. I'm not her mom, Vivian said gently, but I care about her very much. Emma seemed satisfied with this answer and went back to her lunch. But Vivian caught Mrs. Martinez watching from across the room, and the teacher gave her a small, knowing smile. After lunch, Vivian walked Sadie back to her classroom. Did I do okay? Vivian asked. At career day? You did perfect. Sadie squeezed her hand. Are you coming for dinner on Friday? If your dad says it's okay, he will. He always does now. Sadie looked up at her with those big, trusting eyes. I'm glad you're not mean anymore. Me too, sweetheart. Vivian left the school with her heart fuller than it had been in years. The drive back to Boston felt different this time. Not like leaving one world for another, but like traveling between two parts of the same life. The next Tuesday, she faced the quarterly review with the board. This time, she presented the expanded Second Chance program with even more data. 23 employees now participating, productivity up 12% across the board, retention at an all-time high, and 3 candidates who'd specifically sought out quantum solutions because of their new policies. We're becoming known as a company that actually cares about people, Vivian told the board, and it's attracting top talent that wouldn't have looked at us before. Robert Chen studied the numbers carefully. This is impressive. I'll admit, I didn't think it would work. Neither did I, Vivian admitted. But it turns out treating people like humans is actually good for business. Who knew? Patricia Wong actually smiled. You've changed, Vivian. I'm not sure I would have voted to hire you if you'd been like this from the start. But now that you're here, I think you might be exactly what this company needs. The board approved the program's expansion, not just for 6 months, but permanently. They also approved a new position Vivian had proposed, a director of employee experience, someone whose entire job would be ensuring that company policies actually supported people's lives. I already have someone in mind, Vivian said, if you'll trust my judgment. After these results? I think you've earned that trust, Robert said. Vivian called Marcus into her office as soon as the meeting ended. I need you to contact someone for me, she said. Her name is Jennifer Torres. She left the company last year after she had her second baby because we wouldn't give her adequate parental leave. Marcus pulled up his laptop. I remember her. Great product manager. We really should have fought harder to keep her. We should have, but we didn't. Now I want to offer her this new position, full remote work, design her own schedule, and the salary and resources to actually make changes. You think she'll come back? I think she deserves the chance to decide. Jennifer Torres came in for an interview 2 weeks later. She was wary at first, clearly expecting the same company that had failed her before. But when Vivian explained what had changed and why, when she showed Jennifer the data and introduced her to Noah and some of the other Second Chance program participants, something shifted in the woman's expression. I want to believe this is real, Jennifer said, but I've been burned before, by this company specifically. I know, Vivian said. I was the one who burned you. I approved the policy that forced you out. And I'm sorry, you deserved better. So what's different now? I am. The company is. Or at least, we're trying to be. Vivian leaned forward. I can't promise we'll be perfect. We're going to make mistakes. But I can promise that we're committed to actually valuing people's whole lives, not just the part they give to us at work. Jennifer studied her face. If I take this job and it turns out to be the same old quantum solutions with better PR, I'm going to be really angry. Then hold me accountable. That's part of why I need you, to keep us honest. Jennifer took the job. She started 3 weeks later and immediately began transforming the company's approach to everything from parental leave to mental health support to flexible scheduling. She was brilliant and demanding and unafraid to tell Vivian when something wasn't working. "You're going to hate me sometimes," Jennifer warned during her first week. "Good," Vivian said. "That probably means you're doing your job right." March brought warmer weather and longer days. Vivian settled into a new rhythm. 3 days a week in the Boston office, 2 days working remotely from Vermont, staying at a small bed and breakfast in town so she could have dinner with Noah and Sadie without the long drive. It was highly unorthodox for a CEO. The board had questions. Some investors grumbled. But the company was thriving, and Vivian was finally happy, so she stopped caring what people thought. One Friday evening, after a particularly good week, where they'd landed a major new client specifically because of their employee-friendly reputation, Vivian arrived at Noah's cabin with a bottle of sparkling cider and a sense of accomplishment she'd never felt before. Sadie met her at the door as always, but this time she was bouncing with excitement. "Guess what? Guess what?" "What?" "We're building a snowman. It finally warmed up enough and Daddy said we could." Vivian looked at Noah, who was standing in the doorway with a shovel and a grin. "You promised her months ago," he said. "Time to deliver." They spent the next hour in the front yard rolling snow into increasingly large balls. Sadie was the architect, directing them on exactly how big each section should be and where the snowman should stand. Vivian's hands were freezing despite her gloves, and she couldn't remember the last time she'd played in the snow. Maybe she never had. Her childhood had been too serious, too focused on survival for things like snowmen. But now, watching Sadie carefully place a carrot nose and stone eyes on their creation, Vivian felt something unlock inside her. Some part of herself she'd buried so deep she'd forgotten it existed. "He needs a name," Sadie declared. "What should we call him?" Noah asked. Sadie thought very hard. "Mr. Sparkles." "Mr. Sparkles it is." They took pictures. Sadie insisted on one with all three of them together, and Noah set up his phone on the porch railing with a timer. They stood in front of Mr. Sparkles, Sadie in the middle holding both their hands, and smiled. Later, after Sadie was asleep, Noah showed Vivian the photo. They looked like a family, not a real family, not exactly, but something close, something possible. "Can I keep this?" Vivian asked. "Sure, I'll send it to you." They sat on the porch with blankets and hot chocolate, watching the stars come out over the mountains. "You've been coming here a lot," Noah said. 2 days every week. People at work must be noticing." "Let them notice. It's working, isn't it? The company's doing well. I'm doing well." "You are," Noah agreed. "You seem different, lighter." "I feel lighter, like I've been carrying something heavy for years and I finally set it down." Noah was quiet for a moment. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Sure." "Are you happy, like genuinely happy? Not just professionally successful, but actually happy with your life?" Vivian considered the question carefully. 3 months ago, she would have said yes automatically, pointing to her company's valuation and her bank account and her corner office as evidence. Now she thought about Sadie's laughter and Marcus's friendship and Jennifer's fierce dedication to making the company better. She thought about Friday dinners and snowmen and feeling like she belonged somewhere. "Yeah," she said, "I think I am, for the first time in a really long time." "Good. You deserve that." "So do you. Are you happy?" Noah smiled. "Yeah, I am. Sadie's thriving. I'm doing work I care about on terms that actually fit my life. And I have a friend who brings cupcakes and builds snowmen and isn't afraid to admit when she's wrong." "Just a friend?" Vivian asked, then immediately wished she could take it back. That wasn't fair. They'd never discussed anything beyond friendship, never crossed that line. But Noah didn't look uncomfortable. He just looked thoughtful. "I don't know," he said honestly. "Emma's only been gone a year and a half. I'm not sure I'm ready for more than friendship. And I don't know if you are either. You're still figuring out who you are outside of being a CEO." "You're right, I am. But maybe someday?" Noah's voice was careful. "When we're both ready, maybe we could figure out what this is?" Vivian's heart raced. I'd like that. Good. Me too. Noah reached over and took her hand. For now, this is enough. You, me, Sadie, Friday dinners, and snowmen, and whatever this is becoming. It's enough for me too. They sat like that for a long time, hands linked, watching the stars, not needing to say anything more. April brought Sadie's 6th birthday. She insisted on a party at the cabin with all her school friends, and somehow Vivian ended up co-hosting with Noah, helping with decorations and coordinating the chaos of 12 6-year-olds hopped up on cake and ice cream. Marcus drove up for it, claiming he needed to see this transformation for himself. You're really doing this, he said, watching Vivian help Sadie open presents. Building a whole new life. I'm trying. No, you're succeeding. Look at you. You're happy. Actually, genuinely happy. Marcus shook his head in wonder. I didn't think I'd ever see it. Neither did I. The party was wonderful chaos. Children running everywhere, presents scattered across the floor, Sadie in the center of it all glowing with joy. When she blew out her candles, she made a wish with her eyes squeezed tight. What did you wish for? Emma's mother asked. I can't tell, or it won't come true, Sadie said seriously. But she looked at Vivian when she said it, and Vivian had a feeling she knew what the wish was about. Later, after the guests had left and the cabin was quiet again, Vivian helped clean up while Noah put Sadie to bed. Marcus dried dishes while Vivian washed. So are you going to tell me what's really going on between you and Noah? We're friends. Friends who look at each other like that? Like what? Like you're both trying very hard not to fall in love but failing spectacularly. Vivian handed him a plate. It's complicated. He's still grieving. I'm still figuring out who I am. We're taking it slow. How slow? Glacially slow, but intentionally slow. Which feels right. Marcus smiled. Good. You deserve something real. Something that's not about business or success or proving anything. When did you become so wise about relationships? I've always been wise. You just never asked before. Noah emerged from the hallway. She's asleep. Finally. I think that's the most wound up I've ever seen her. It was a good party, Vivian said. It was a great party. Thank you for helping. Marcus checked his watch. I should head back to Boston. Early meeting tomorrow. After he left, Vivian and Noah sat in the living room, exhausted but content. Sadie told me her birthday wish, Noah said. I thought wishes were secret. They usually are, but she wanted me to know. Noah looked at Vivian. She wished that you could stay, not just visit, but really stay. Be part of our family. Vivian's breath caught. Noah, I know, it's a lot. She's 6, and she doesn't understand how complicated things are. But I thought you should know. Because she's getting attached, really attached. And if this is just temporary, if you're going to eventually go back to your old life and forget about us, I need to know now, before she gets hurt. I'm not going to forget about you, either of you. But are you going to stay in any meaningful way? Vivian thought about her apartment in Boston, empty and expensive and lonely, about the life she'd built that had seemed so important and now felt hollow, about this cabin and the little girl asleep down the hall and the man sitting across from her who'd given her a second chance when he had every right to slam the door in her face. I don't know what staying looks like, she admitted. I still have a company to run, responsibilities, a board that's already suspicious of how much time I spend here. I'm not asking you to give up your company. I'm asking if there's room in your life for us. Real room, not just Friday visits when it's convenient. There is. I want there to be. Then show me. Noah's voice was gentle but firm. Show Sadie. Show us that we matter enough to actually change your life for not just visit on weekends. It was a fair challenge. Vivian had changed her company, changed her policies, changed her perspective. But she hadn't actually changed her life. She still lived in Boston, still kept this separate from her real world, still treated it like an escape rather than an integration. You're right, she said. I need to figure out what I actually want. Not what I think I should want, but what I actually want. Take your time. We're not going anywhere. But even as he said it, Vivian knew that time wasn't unlimited. Sadie was getting more attached. Noah was taking more risks with his heart. and eventually she'd have to decide if she was really all in or still holding something back. That night, driving back to her bed and breakfast, Vivian made a decision. The next week, she put her Boston apartment on the market. Marcus nearly had a heart attack when she told him. "You're selling? Where are you going to live?" "I'm not sure yet, but I know I don't want to live there anymore." "Vivian, you love that apartment." "I love the idea of it, the status, the view, the proof that I made it." Vivian looked around her office. "But I don't actually love living there. It's never felt like home." "And the cabin in Vermont feels like home?" "Maybe. Or maybe I just need something different. Either way, that apartment isn't it." The apartment sold in 2 weeks, bought by a young tech executive who reminded Vivian uncomfortably of herself 5 years ago. All ambition and sharp edges, no softness anywhere. With the money from the sale, Vivian did something crazy. She bought a small house halfway between Boston and Noah's cabin. Close enough to get to the office when she needed to, far enough that she could have space and peace and a life outside of work. It needed work. The kitchen was outdated, the floors creaked, the bathroom tiles were from the 70s. But it had a yard and good light and a second bedroom that could be turned into an office. She texted Noah a picture. "Bought a house. It's a disaster. Want to help me fix it?" His response, "Are you serious?" "Completely serious. Closing is next month. Why? Because I want a home, a real one, and I want it to be closer to you." 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. Finally, "That's a big step. I know. I'm terrified." "Good. That probably means it's the right choice." Noah drove down the next weekend to see it. He walked through every room, nodding thoughtfully, pointing out what would need to be fixed and what had good bones. "It's perfect for you," he said finally. "It's a mess." "So were you when I met you. Look how that turned out." Vivian laughed. "Fair point." They stood in what would be the living room, surrounded by peeling wallpaper and possibility. "I'm proud of you," Noah said, "for taking this step, for actually changing your life, not just your company. I'm scared I'm doing it for the wrong reasons, that I'm making decisions based on a 6-year-old's birthday wish instead of logic." "Maybe that's exactly why you should do it. You've spent your whole life making logical decisions. How's that worked out?" "Not great if we're being honest." "Then try something different. Make a decision with your heart instead of your head and see what happens." Over the next month, Vivian threw herself into renovating the house. She hired contractors for the big stuff, but she and Noah worked on the smaller projects together, painting walls, refinishing floors, building shelves. Sadie came to help on weekends, carefully painting baseboard trim with a tiny brush, chattering about how she was going to have her own room when she stayed over. "When I stay over?" Vivian asked. Sadie looked at her like she was being dense. "Well, yeah. When Daddy and I visit, I need somewhere to sleep, right?" Noah just shrugged. "She's already decided. No point arguing." Jennifer visited once, ostensibly to discuss employee retention strategies, but really to see this new development in Vivian's life. "So you're really doing this," she said, standing in the half-finished kitchen. "Building a whole new life." "Trying to." "Does the board know?" "They know I bought a house. They don't need to know anything else." Jennifer smiled. "You've come a long way from the CEO who fired me for wanting maternity leave." "I'm sorry I did that. Have I said that enough?" "You've said it. And more importantly, you fixed it. Not just for me, but for everyone." Jennifer looked around the house. "This is good, Vivian. You having a life outside of work, being human. The company's better for it." "How do you figure?" "Because you're making decisions based on what's actually good for people, not just what looks good on paper. You're leading with empathy now. It shows." The house was finished in late May, just as spring was turning into summer. Vivian moved in on a Saturday, with Noah and Sadie and Marcus all helping haul boxes and furniture. That night, after everything was unpacked and everyone had gone home except Noah and Sadie, they ordered pizza and ate it sitting on the floor because Vivian hadn't bought enough furniture yet. "I like it here," Sadie said, tomato sauce on her chin. "It feels happy." "It does, doesn't it?" Vivian looked around at the space she'd created. Nothing fancy, nothing designed to impress. Just a home. After dinner, Noah tucked Sadie into the guest room bed, her bed she'd already claimed, and came back to find Vivian standing on the back porch, looking at the stars. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah, just thinking about how different everything is now. 6 months ago, I was living in that expensive apartment, working 80-hour weeks, convinced I had everything figured out. And now? Now I live in a house that needs work. I leave the office at reasonable hours, and I have no idea what I'm doing. But I'm happy." Noah moved to stand beside her. "For what it's worth, I think you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing." "Which is?" "Living. Actually living, not just existing." They stood in comfortable silence, shoulders almost touching. "Can I tell you something?" Vivian asked. "Always? I think I'm falling in love with you, both of you and Sadie." Her heart pounded saying it out loud. "I don't know if it's too soon, or if I'm allowed to feel that way, or if you're ready to hear it, but I needed you to know." Noah didn't say anything for a long moment, then he reached over and took her hand. Emma used to say that grief doesn't have a timeline, that you can't schedule healing or plan when you'll be ready to move forward. His voice was thick with emotion. "I think she was right. I think I've been waiting for some official okay, some sign that enough time had passed. But maybe the sign is just this. Feeling ready, feeling like I could love again without betraying her memory. And do you? Feel ready?" "I think I do. With you." Noah turned to face her fully. "You're not Emma. You'll never be Emma. But you're something else, something unexpected and good and real. And Sadie loves you. I can see it in the way she lights up when you're around." "I love her too, so much it scares me." "Good. She deserves that kind of love. We both do." Noah leaned in slowly, giving Vivian time to pull away if she wanted. She didn't want. She met him halfway, and when their lips touched, it felt like coming home. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were smiling. "So what now?" Vivian asked. "Now we keep doing what we're doing, taking it slow, building something real, seeing where this goes. No pressure, no timeline. No pressure, no timeline. Just us, figuring it out as we go." It wasn't a dramatic declaration. It wasn't a proposal or a promise of forever. But it was honest and real and exactly what they both needed. The summer passed in a blur of happiness Vivian had never experienced before. She split her time between her house, Noah's cabin, and the Boston office. The company continued to thrive under the new policies. Jennifer was expanding programs faster than Vivian could have imagined. They'd been approached by 3 major publications wanting to write about quantum solutions transformation. "You're becoming famous for being human," Marcus told her. "How's that feel?" "Weird. Good weird, but weird." One evening in August, Vivian was making dinner at her house, something she'd learned to do badly but enthusiastically, when Noah and Sadie showed up unannounced. "We have a question," Noah said, unusually nervous. Sadie was bouncing on her toes. "We want to know if we can move in." Vivian nearly dropped the wooden spoon she was holding. "What?" Noah ran a hand through his hair. "Our lease on the cabin is up next month. I was going to renew, but Sadie pointed out that we're here most of the time anyway, and it would cut my commute to basically nothing. And the school district here is better. Plus, I could have my own room," Sadie added. "And we could be a real family." Vivian looked at Noah. "Is that what you want? Or is this Sadie's idea?" "It's both. I want this, Vivian. If you want it too. I'm not asking you to marry me or commit to forever right now. Just asking if we can try living together. See how it works." Vivian thought about the house she'd bought with the intention of having space for herself. About how it had never actually felt complete when she was alone. About how the best moments had been when Noah and Sadie were there, filling the rooms with laughter and life. "Yes," she said. "Yes, move in, both of you." Sadie screamed with joy and threw herself at Vivian, who caught her and spun her around. Noah just smiled, but his eyes were bright with emotion. "You sure?" "I'm sure. This house has been waiting for you. I just didn't know it until now." They moved in 2 weeks later. Noah's furniture blended with Vivian's, creating a home that was uniquely theirs. Sadie's room was painted purple at her insistence, with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. Noah's office was set up in the spare room, with a door he could close when he needed to focus. And every evening, they had dinner together. Sometimes Vivian cooked. Sometimes Noah did. Sometimes they ordered pizza. But they always sat together at the table, talking about their days, laughing at Sadie's stories, being a family. In September, Vivian got a call from a journalist at Forbes wanting to interview her about the transformation at Quantum Solutions. She agreed, but only if they focused on the people who'd made it possible, not just her. The article ran in October with the headline, "How CEO Vivian Park Rebuilt Her Company and Herself by Putting People First." It featured interviews with Noah, with Jennifer, with several other employees who talked about how the new policies had changed their lives. There was a photo of Vivian in her home office, casual in jeans and a sweater, smiling genuinely. She barely recognized herself. The article went viral in the business world. Vivian started getting calls from other CEOs wanting to know how she'd done it. She gave talks, consulted with companies, became known not for her ruthlessness but for her humanity. "You've started a movement," Marcus told her. "I've just tried to be better." And that's exactly what the world needed to see. That it's possible, that you can be successful without being cruel. One Friday in November, almost a year after the storm that had changed everything, Vivian found herself standing in Noah's old cabin. The new tenants were moving in tomorrow, but Noah had wanted to say goodbye first. "This is where it started," he said, standing in the middle of the living room, "where you showed up freezing and desperate, and I had to decide whether to help you or close the door. I'm glad you helped me." "Me too." Even though I wanted to slam that door so badly, Vivian walked to the window where she'd first seen the snowstorm raging. "I was so lost that night. I didn't even know it, but I was completely lost. And now? Now I'm found. I know who I am. I know what matters. I know where I belong." Noah came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Where's that?" "Here, with you. With Sadie. Building this life we're creating together." They stood there for a moment, then Noah turned her around to face him. "I have something to tell you," he said. Vivian's heart jumped. "Okay." "I love you. I'm in love with you. Completely, terrifyingly in love with you." Noah took her hands. "I know we said no pressure, no timeline, but I need you to know. You changed my life, Vivian. You gave me hope when I didn't think I could have it anymore. You love my daughter like she's your own. You make me want to be better every single day." Vivian's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too, so much. I didn't think I was capable of this kind of love, but you taught me. You and Sadie both." "So where do we go from here?" "Wherever we want. Together." Noah kissed her, soft and sweet, a promise without words. When they finally left the cabin, Vivian looked back one last time. That tiny building had been the site of her greatest humiliation and her most profound transformation. The place where she'd hit bottom and somehow found the strength to rebuild. She'd driven into that storm, a ruthless CEO convinced of her own righteousness. She'd walked out a human being ready to learn how to live. 2 weeks later, on Thanksgiving, Vivian and Noah hosted dinner at their house. Marcus was there, along with Jennifer and her family. Some of Noah's neighbors from Vermont made the drive. Even Vivian's mother came, meeting Noah and Sadie for the first time. "She's lovely," her mother whispered to Vivian while they were setting the table. "And that little girl adores you." "I adore her too." "You seem happy, sweetheart. Really, truly happy." "I am, Mom. For the first time in my life, I think I actually am." During dinner, Sadie insisted on going around the table with everyone saying what they were thankful for. When it was Vivian's turn, she looked around at the faces gathered there. People she loved, people who loved her back. "I'm thankful for second chances," she said, "and for snowstorms that force you to face yourself, and for people who save your life even when they have every reason not to." She met Noah's eyes across the table. He smiled, and Sadie grabbed her hand, and Vivian felt a wave of gratitude so intense it almost knocked her over. She'd spent 15 years building a fortress, being strong, being untouchable, being alone. And then a snowstorm had brought it all crashing down. But from those ruins, she'd built something better. Not a fortress, but a home. Not perfection, but humanity. Not isolation, but love. Later that night, after everyone had gone and Sadie was asleep upstairs, Vivian and Noah sat on the couch, her head on his shoulder, completely content. "Are we still enemies?" Noah asked, echoing his question from months ago. Vivian smiled. "No, I don't think we are." "What are we then?" "I think we're family, the kind you choose, the kind you build, the kind that saves you from yourself." I like that answer. Me too. Outside, the first snow of the season started to fall, soft and gentle, nothing like the storm that had brought them together. But Vivian watched it anyway, remembering everything that had led to this moment. The crash, the cabin, the confrontation, the apology, the slow, painful work of becoming someone better. She thought she knew what strength was, what success meant, what mattered. She'd been wrong about all of it, but she'd learned, changed, grown, and in the end, that was worth more than any corner office or company valuation or board approval. She'd found something better than success. She'd found herself, and in doing so, she'd found home.